Okay, got it.
Can you turn your phone? Oh, wait.
Yeah, you're gonna have to mess with the mute. Tuesday's your Monday. Oh, you don't have to work on Monday? That's a good deal. UFC this Saturday. That's right. UFC 300 this. I think it's 300 this Saturday, isn't it? Or are we still 299? Yeah, it's 300 this weekend. That's gonna be good.
Okay, you can hear me, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, you sound good. Everybody survived the rapture. I kind of forgot that was going on during the live yesterday. We didn't. I guess we only had a partial, so I didn't see it. There have been.
Can I turn my phone to the side? Oh, we're gonna find out.
My Cash App is triggering. Sorry, that's on me. That's on me. It is probably a little triggering for some. I didn't think about that. I'm not that sorry. You're rooting for the rapture. I wasn't. If the rapture happens, like I'm fucked. If the rapture happens, I'm not in a good place with Jesus probably. So I don't think that's a good deal for me. I do think it's fair that if the rapture comes that we get like a heads up. I do think that's fair. We should get like a month heads up and just decide what you want to do from there.
It was supposed to be yesterday.
That's what they keep saying. Maybe it's almost like maybe the rapture is not really a thing that's ever going to happen. We went for a lifetime on predicting it. Is that what you're trying to? Oh, your phone is sideways, but then your view is sideways.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm so confused.
I don't think it auto flows on here.
Oh, it doesn't? Whatever. We're just gonna do it straight up and down because I can't figure it
out. Felice, when she messaged this to me last night, was I don't know if you've ever liked a segment of anything so much as you like this segment, this Rachel Maddow segment.
Yeah, well, I mean, Rachel Maddow is the most watched like cable news show. Like I feel, and she's a pretty tried and true investigative journalist. Like, so I like everything Rachel Maddow does in general. I just think she's very professional, like polished. Like when she does a piece of investigative journalism, I think everybody learns something.
Yeah, I think the thing I like about her is she's meticulous, but she's also pretty careful. Like she's not really trying to be the first one necessarily to have the story, but she doesn't do the story until she has it locked down. And that's what impressed me with this story. Like so many times you turn on cable news and like they have to put on new news every day and stories break late and they try and just recap them real quick. Like there was a lot of time and effort put into this piece. So we thought we would just let Rachel do a lot of the talking this morning. Do you want to set it up?
Yeah, so, well, I'm just trying to I don't know why this won't straighten to my liking. Sorry, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah, I was going to say. Do you have a level out? Did you put a level out? There you go. That's pretty good.
No.
That's good enough.
Yeah, well, whatever. Anyways, so this is just about like there have been many questions about the bond, right? In the Letitia James Judge Engerin trial, and what's going on with that. The bond he had to post as he appeals. And I had many questions about it as well. Like nothing has been decided. I do know that. And that is because the next hearing on that is scheduled for the 22nd. And I wasn't sure if the appellate, if the appeals judges or if a new judge was going to preside over that, or if Judge Engerin was, right? Because all of this new information is coming out about Don Hankey and his company, the billionaire, right, that backed this bond. And so that's what I want to talk about, because I was talking about this with a couple people, and then, I watch Rachel Maddow's show every Monday, and she just did one of her like deep dives where you're just like, oh yeah, like Rachel Maddow is
of course
amazing.
His name's Hanky too, right? Like it had to be some bizarre name. It had to be some if there's going to be like a bond and you can't get a traditional bond, nobody wants to loan to you. It was always going to be somebody a little bit mysterious, but I feel like this hanky goes beyond mysterious into like, oh, he's just kind of like a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we can all be the judge of that. Like this man, like whoever you think Don Hankey is. Yeah, actually, when you look up Don Hankey, because I did just Google him, and then just a bunch of Mr. Hankey references from South Park came up because I typed it in
Yeah.
wrong. Because it's not it like it has an E. Like I just did that literally.
We're
Like
gonna leave it.
everyone's like, "Oh, Mr. Hanky and the Christmas poo." Yeah, that's basically what I was just looking at for like 20 minutes. No, not that hanky. That hanky's much more acceptable. So yeah, we're just gonna learn what's up with this guy that posted Trump's bond and if he has any business posting it, if it's legal. It looks like not. But again, all of this information, like, and more that Rachel Maddow's gonna go through is going to be adjudicated in a hearing on April 22nd. And I believe she says, if I'm not mistaken, I've watched this like a couple times through, that it is Judge Edgren. So basically, Trump's lawyer, oh, Alina Habba is probably in a lot of trouble. Trump's lawyers misrepresented a bunch of things to the court. I mean, Judge Engoron basically had to deal with all of Trump's like fraudulent stuff. And then now this happened with the bond. So all of this will probably be presented in court, I assume, in some capacity by Letitia James.
Can you imagine how draining it would be to be Judge Engeron and just like
That's what I'm saying. He's
knowing
probably
over
just
and
like,
over you have to deal with this circus? Just like, fuck, can somebody else could we assign it to somebody else? Like that's got to be exhausting to be Judge Engeron.
well, and back to the threat, back to like your family not being safe. But I'm sure he's also angry. In a way, I think he might be glad it's going back to him, maybe,
Could be.
because like this is just some more, you know what I mean? Just some more fraudulent stuff. Like it turns out. Oh, you guys are not gonna believe this.
You are.
I
Because it's
mean,
Trump,
yeah,
you
what am
are.
I
But
saying?
like,
Or
if
you
it was
will.
anybody else, you wouldn't believe it.
So what do we want to do? Like, just tell me, like, let me know when you want to stop it, because we'll just
Yeah.
break in throughout this. And then, guys, like, let's keep tapping the screen, because, this is like 15 minutes, I think, at least. We'll break in and talk. If you would like to donate and leave us a comment, Jay will read pretty much any comment you have out loud. We can do like F Mary Banish. You could do a funny joke, whatever that is. You can donate at one of these here. Am I missing anything? Yeah, just keep
No,
tapping
I'm
the
pulling them
screen.
up now.
Also, we are taking any Republicans who want to debate. You can request anytime and just contact Jen, our amazing partner. Will, if you are an op, she'll ask you, just let her know. And yeah, we would love to talk to any Republicans today.
I'm ready to
What did
go.
you, I'm sorry, Jay, what did you say
No,
while
I'm
I
ready to go. I
was,
have Discord up. I have the comments up. And I have my listening ears on. I'm ready for Teacher Felice today. I'm very excited about this. And as promised,
Teacher Rachel?
I will raise my hand quietly if I would like to say something, as promised. It's part of the rules.
Isn't stress looking good on me?
it's bronzing. Oh, that could have been your walk yesterday. Never mind.
Yeah, it's all the walking. That's what it is. I figured it out. If you don't want to deal with mental health through drugs and alcohol, which, like I used to, walking is a great way to deal with mental health.
You can do both too. If you don't want to go cold
Yes,
turkey,
at the
you can
same
do
time.
both.
That's what
Yeah,
Jay does.
yeah. That's we're not judging. Is what we're saying. Either
Okay,
way.
hopefully the sound will be okay. Okay, let's learn something.
In today's news, here's something that is less of a party trick, more of a dirty trick. Have you ever heard the term spoofing? People can use hacking techniques, or they can buy software that spoofs their phone number. So the way that might appear in your life is you get a call on a landline, if you still have a landline, or more likely on your cell phone. Either one, if there's caller ID, when you get that call, the caller ID says something that is not true. If somebody has spoofed their number, the caller ID will make it look like they're calling from somewhere they're not calling from. It'll make it look like it's a local number when they are not calling from somewhere local. Or they'll make it look like it's somebody who you know that is calling you, when in fact it is not.
Sorry.
For one financial company that got busted for doing this, they would sometimes make their calls to their...
I'm sorry, did you see that comment?
Yeah, that's what I'm laughing at.
I'm sorry. That's good. Is it spoofing what Jay did with that rug? Yes, that's like a second definition. You know what I mean? That's an alternate definition of spoofing. Yes.
Spoof's just
Thank you.
I'm glad other people are as immature as me, because when I first watched this video, she's like, "Do you know what spoofing is?" It's like, that just sounds like
Yeah, it
sounds like
sounds weird.
something that Mormons for sure do. That's what it sounds like, and it might be. I'll ask some of my Mormon friends. I've been out
But
of the
just
loop for a
imagine
while.
how shady and how like horrible of a debt collecting company. You're giving high interest loans and then you're spoofing, pretending to be like people's moms calling them.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when this used to happen. When it first happened, I got really duped by it. I had somebody saying like I had an arrest warrant out from me, but it said like, I want to say it said like the city I was from and the police or something like that. And then I was like, that's weird. I think I know all the police officers in Linden, and none of them have an accent whatsoever. Because Linden, I believe, where I'm from, I don't believe we've ever had somebody that was an officer there that wasn't white. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that's. I mean, maybe in the last
That's very
couple
true in
years.
Utah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, keep tapping the screen, guys.
customers look like they were coming from one of your relatives. So, like, your cell phone would ring, you'd look at the screen, and it would say, Mom is calling, or Dad is calling. You answer, and it's not your mom, not your dad. It's actually a debt collector from this company. The company that got busted doing this would make it look like it was people's relatives who were calling them. They would also sometimes spoof their phone number to make it look like this particularly nasty trick. They'd call you and spoof their number so it looked like they were a florist. A flower company that have flower delivery for you. They pretend to be that kind of a business when in fact you answered the call. Or alternatively, they have the call look on your phone like they were a pizza place. They pretend to be a pizza place calling you. They tell you they had a delivery for you. Somebody wants to send you a pizza, or somebody wants to send you flowers.
This would still work
They
on
were
me.
given your...
Sorry. This would still work on me. If I ever see on my caller ID a pizza place, I'm gonna answer it. Like, even though I'm 90% sure it's spoofing, it could be a pizza place just being like, "Hey man, you want some pizza?" And I'm gonna say, I'm probably still gonna answer that. I think that's the best one.
Yeah, and it's not just like, again, you can just hang up, but it's not about that. It's about finding out if that's your real number, if you're there. Is that
Right.
are they calling you at a landline? Then they know that's your home. It's just all part of tactic stalking, basically. I mean, that's what people, the other people who do this are stalkers.
One of the times it's gonna
your
be
number
free
because they
pizza.
need to complete the delivery. They just need to know where you are so they can drop off this gift. They can drop off this delivery. Who doesn't want a pizza sent from a friend? Who doesn't want some flowers sent from a friend? The reason this financial company would do that kind of spoofing, that kind of scam, that kind of trick, is so they could find out where you are. And then once you told them where you are, because you're expecting the pizza or the flowers or whatever, then what they would actually send to your door where you were at that moment are the debt collectors. Or they'd send out a repo man to that location to come break into your car and take it. This was a financial company doing this, not just like an organized crime gang or something doing this. This is a registered American financial institution that was doing this. And in 2015, during the Obama administration, they finally got in trouble for it. That scam where they used fake phone numbers to trick people into picking up their phone or giving up their location. They were accused of working that scheme more than 130,000 times. They also made other kinds of threats. They falsely threatened people that they were going to be criminally charged. Now, this financial company had no power to bring criminal charges against anyone. But when they came after you, one of the things they would do repeatedly is they'd threaten that they could get you locked up, that they could get you arrested. And they wouldn't just call you and make threats like this. They would call your relatives. They would call your actual mom. They'd call your friends. They'd call your landlord. They'd call your boss. That was one of their favorite techniques, apparently, calling people's plate.
Can we, just to be clear, for anybody who's just
Yeah.
coming in, it may seem bizarre that we're listening to them explain like spoofing calls, but there's a reason for this. And we just this is Rachel Maddow doing a great job laying out just like what a scam and what kind of people this is. But we're not
Trust
doing
me, this is going somewhere disgusting.
we're not doing a whole episode on telemarketing. We promise. We promise
Yeah,
we're
this
not
is
doing
not our anger about telemarketers.
Yeah.
This is going somewhere that has to do with Don Hankey the Christmas poo.
Place of employment started making these threats about you, the employee at this company, telling your boss how much trouble that you are in. How's that going to go over for you at work? The same company was also found to have changed the terms of people's loans without notifying their customers that they were making those changes. They just make the change on their own, presumably to their own benefit, and then they chase you for it without you having had any notification.
They would change interest rates, change whatever, not notify the lenders. These are already high interest, borderline illegal
Right.
loans. They would change the terms of the contract without telling anyone
And
and
why? Because
then
like
prosecute you through the courts.
yeah, I mean if you're already taking one of these loans, these predatory loans, you were already hard up to begin with. They know that. They know that most of the people they give loans to aren't going to be able to sue them. Probably don't even know what they're signing. May not even know that the changes were made to their accounts. Like it's just incredibly predatory.
And again, you'll figure out what company this is going somewhere. Rachel Maddow's going somewhere. We're learning about Don Hankey, the man who backed Trump's bond.
That your loan was now under different terms. They were doing all of these different things all at once, and they finally got in trouble for some of it in 2015. Citing, quote, illegal threats and deception from this financial company, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau made them pay more than $48 million in fines during the Obama administration. More than $48 million in fines and restitution, I should say, to their customers after the CFPB went after them for using techniques like this. So the basic business of this company was loans. It was super high interest loans, car loans, specifically to people who didn't have good credit. So you need a car. Almost everybody needs a car. You need a car, but you've got bad credit for some reason. I'm sorry about that. That's too bad. The good news is there's this one place that will still give you a car loan even though you have bad credit. The bad news is that it's this place that's going to call your mom, call your grandma, and harass them about your car loan. He's going to call your boss to harass you about your car loan. They're going to threaten to arrest you and threaten to lock you up and use weird phone number spoofing tricks to get you to inadvertently give up your location so they can go get after you in person, right? And even if it all goes well, they're still going to charge you like 20% interest on that terrible loan, even if they're not hounding you yet and threatening you to the point where they have to pay nearly $50 million in fines and restitution for their sins.
And think about it. That's nothing to them. That's pocket change compared to the money that they're leveraging, right?
Right.
How badly do you need that car? This same car loan company was also sued by the U.S. Department of Justice for illegally repossessing cars from active duty members of the United States military. Nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Also for gouging active duty U.S. service members with interest rates, with illegally high interest rates that this company was not legally allowed to charge to service members. They paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to settle that part of how they were doing business with the U.S. Justice Department. It's terrible, right? But the guy who ran the companies that did those things became very wealthy doing those things. A billionaire many times over. He became also the largest shareholder of a weird bank in Southern California. A bank that initially called itself, I did not make this logo myself at home, on an Etch-a-Sketch. No, they initially really did call themselves Bank of Internet USA.
The old Bank of Internet USA. No, I wouldn't be worried about giving them my money.
That's the exact those. If somebody says those words to you when they call you, that's a scam. But these guys chose like the scammiest possible name for their semi-legitimate business.
Bank of Internet.
That was their name. Somebody lost it in Mad Libs. Bank of Internet USA. This bank, with the car loan guy as one of their biggest shareholders and ultimately their largest shareholder, this bank sort of expanded that guy's horizons into other headline-grabbing business practices, like, say, the tugboat operator in Alabama, who ended up with a business loan from that bank at 127% interest. Or how about the mom and pop distribution business?
A tugboat operator from Alabama was charged 127% interest on a
That's a high interest rate for anybody. If you're ever out there car shopping and you were to get an 18% interest rate, that is don't do that. Don't do 18%. But 127% is wild. That's 100%. If that's the APR, that's 127% of your loan every year. That doesn't even make any sense. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all.
In Woburn, Massachusetts, their business loan ended up at 92% interest and required daily payments.
daily.
How about a restaurant? A great
Like, can you imagine the pressure? And then they're stalking you. They're stalking your friends and family. They're like,
You can't
this
get
is
away
insane.
because all you've got is a tugboat. That's not going anywhere fast. They're going to be able to find you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
well-reviewed, excellent, super cute restaurant in New York City. They needed a $67,000 business loan to do a renovation. They ended up with that loan at 268% interest. 260.
This is Don Hankey, the Christmas poo that bailed out Donald Trump. These are Trump's friends, great people, right? Leveraging a restaurant owner for a 268% interest loan.
I know she didn't get it here, and I looked at some of the links, but I didn't see. Is this something like they changed the interest rate so many times that it wound up being that much, or was it compounding? Like every time you missed a payment, it went up. Do you know? I couldn't find that out.
Yeah, it's compounding. It's usury. Yeah, it's illegal interest. It's predatory lending. Yeah, you don't pay and then it compounds. They wouldn't notify people that interest rates had raised or the original terms of their loan had changed. They would just be like, oh, it was in the fine print that there were penalties. I mean, they've had lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit.
100% this dipshit blames inflation on the Federal Reserve, though. Just 100% this guy's like, yeah, it's the Federal Reserve printing too much money.
Interest. Oh, and if you'd like to get out from under that and just pay it off all at once, because who can pay 268% interest? Sorry, no thank you. They're not interested in that either. There's a 30% penalty you have to pay just for the privilege of paying that loan off.
Like, is everyone grasping what she is saying about Don Hankey, the man that bailed out Trump? And it's only getting worse from here.
By the way, most of you have heard of the company they ran their loans through was Westlake, which if you've listened to like FM radio or podcasts, you've heard the word Westlake when it comes to auto funding. And that's going to be on some commercial where it's like, we can approve anybody. That's Westlake. You guys have probably heard that.
By the end of the Obama administration, this entity was also under investigation by the SEC. Bank of Internet. Under investigation by the SEC, a whistleblower who's supposed to be some sort of internal auditor at the company had come forward and made allegations that the bank's clients included criminals and, quote, notorious criminals, and, quote, very high-level foreign officials from major oil-producing countries and war zones.
So is everyone getting that? An internal auditor for the company came forward and alerted the SEC that their clients of Bank of Internet were, I can't even say it, were criminals and more criminals and foreign uh, dignitaries from oil-rich countries.
Yeah.
The whistleblower made allegations about the bank involving alleged tax evasion and money laundering and lying to the SEC. So they
No.
were under SEC investigation. And for whatever reason, that SEC investigation appears to have poofed. It appears to have gone away once Donald Trump became president in 2017.
So
Uh-oh.
that's
Are we
how
calling these
these two know each other.
Huh. This feels.
He made another. You want to talk about? Okay, MAGA. I'm glad you're all here. Let's talk. Let's learn about weaponization of the DOJ and what that actually is. Right? Like you want to talk about weaponization of the DOJ. This man, Trump, killed the investigation. Right into this man's company that later bailed him out.
One of the things that has been very true about Donald Trump is that he exposed the if you want to call it deep state, but he exposed the corruption in our government. He did so by finding commonplace with scammers and crooks and putting them in his administration and cutting deals for them. That's how he exposed it, by just working with them. That's mostly the corruption that we found.
When Donald Trump became president in 2017, he also took the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau off the board entirely. His administration disempowered the agency, that same agency that had forced these car loan companies to pay more than $48 million in fines and restitution. Donald Trump, very conveniently for those companies and for that billionaire who ran those companies, very conveniently just made that agency go away.
So not only did he make the investigation into Bank of Internet go away, all of the predatory auto loans, this is all the same billionaire we were talking about. And the agency that forced Don Hankey to pay $48 million in fines, Trump did away with them.
Thanks, buddy.
While Trump was in office, this guy's bank started making big surprise loans to Jared Kushner's family real estate business. At least 3 major multi-million-dollar real estate-related loans and
No.
transactions benefiting Jared's family business while Jared was working in the Trump White House. While the Trump White House was doing things that were very beneficial to this bank and to its senior shareholders. I
Hey,
wonder if
just
they ever
real
thought
quick,
about calling Jared's family members to
please.
harass them about benefiting
Sorry,
Walt.
I'm just rewinding. I just wanted
No,
to
you're
even
good.
replay that. Does everyone hear it now? Jared Kush, is anyone so surprised Jared Kushner's popped up suddenly? This billionaire that underwrote Trump's bond, which we now know, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
This is,
So
again, this is only going to get worse.
fraudster Donald Trump, fraudster this lender, and doing business with another fraudster, the Kushners. Maybe people don't remember that Charles Kushner is a convicted felon who, after Trump became president, he just went ahead and pardoned his son-in-law's dad, who was a felon, who was also doing business with this group. But no big deal. Trump's just surrounded by felons, surrounded by criminals, but there's nothing to look at here. He's not a criminal.
You're just jealous, Jay.
A little jealous. He does get money
Trump
so
was in
easily.
office.
It's so easy for him.
Well, yeah, look how it comes. These are criminals. Like, you just got to run in different circles,
I
you
guess
know?
so.
Car loan companies to pay more than $48 million in fines and restitution. Donald Trump, very conveniently for those companies and for that billionaire who ran those companies, very conveniently just made that agency go away. While Trump was in office, this guy's bank started making big surprise loans to Jared Kushner's family real estate business. At least 3 major multi-million-dollar real estate-related loans and transactions benefiting Jared's family business while Jared was working in the Trump White House. While the Trump White House was doing things that were very beneficial to this bank and to its senior shareholders.
That's right, nuts in the comments. What about 10% to the big guy, right? Like, let's
Yeah.
just all think about how ludicrous. Why don't we litigate that Hunter Biden had to get a $40,000 loan for his 2018 Ford Raptor with our tax dollars in Congress for 4 years? Because that makes Nothing to see over here. You know what I mean? Nothing to see over here. Nothing's weird whatsoever. Nothing alarming.
I wonder if they ever thought about calling Jared's family members to harass them about those loans, or if they ever called him pretending to be a florist, so they could find out where he was and then send the repo man out to get him. I wonder if they ever used those techniques on him. The story of this super high interest car loan company threatening its customers and getting in trouble all over the place for doing it. That story has crossed over now from the business news and from the news of fraud and crime into national politics news. Because this is the source of funds now that is supporting the man who has a very good shot of being the next president of the United States. This is now the major source of funds for former President Donald Trump.
Oh, and you guys are going to die. It's not just, you think that we're just talking about the bond? Wait till you hear what this man has done.
Look at how misshapen Trump's head is in that picture.
In his first felony criminal trial, which starts 1 week from today, while he simultaneously is running for president as the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. The bank in question here, it really did used to be called Bank of Internet USA. It has now changed its name to Axos Bank. When Donald Trump left office in 2021, normal banks and businesses, at least for a while, purported to be shocked and horrified by him using mob violence to attack the U.S. Capitol, to try to stay in power by violence, despite you losing the election. That was a particularly acute financial problem for him right when he left office, because in 2021, as he left office, he was facing looming deadlines to pay back huge loans on both his Trump Tower property in New York and his golf club in South Florida. Those loans were coming due when normal banks wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. But not every bank, it turns out, is normal, because this bank, Axos Bank, bailed him out of both of those huge loans. They came out of nowhere, provided $225 million to Trump just before the deadline by which he needed to pay off those loans. They absolutely rescued him.
This is all the same man.
Right. And let's also
at the time wanted to
real
get
quick,
out.
let's just a quick reminder for anybody who's coming in. What we're talking about right now, what Rachel Maddow's talking about, is the person responsible for lending Donald Trump the money to secure his bond. This is somebody who has consistently acted in predatory ways with lending. Sometimes, I think the highest we heard was charging up to 230% interest. They have deep ties.
86.
286%. Sorry, I lowballed it. Deep
Yeah.
ties to foreign money, ties to the Kushners. And now we're getting into some information showing just simply that they also seem to have bailed Trump out many times out of getting him out of loans or giving him loans when payment was due.
Yeah, and also Trump made investigations go away for them when this man and his companies were being prosecuted and fined left and right. The largest to the tune of 48 million when Obama was president, and when Trump became president, mysteriously, those investigations went away. And then, in addition, the FEC, the financial, what is it, the financial protection company or government agency that had made these companies pay 48 million for the predatory loans, was defunded.
Yeah, it was the SEC investigation, right? That's what you're looking at?
No, as not SEC, that's trading, that's securities. We're talking about the consumer financial protection. It's
Yeah. Okay, I don't know
consumer. Yeah,
I'll find it.
it's
Because I was looking at their, sorry, I was
well, you
just
can
looking at their,
rewind. She said it in this clip.
I was
It's
just looking at their
FEC.
SEC violations from 2018. Believe it or not, they also have some
Consumer
SEC
Protection
violations.
Agency is
Thank
one
you.
also, but I can't.
Of one of his big money losing ventures, the Trump branded DC hotel. While Trump was president, that hotel was, of course, a convenient place to accept effectively small bribes. Any place, a customer wanted to put money, any customer who wanted to put money in the sitting president's pocket, could, in effect, do so by spending money at that hotel, either on rooms or at the restaurants or what have you. And while I'm sure that was a great source of pleasure and flattery to the former president while he was president, even with that weird secondary motivation for people to do business there, the hotel overall was a big economic loser. While Trump was president, that hotel lost $70 million. So he
That's
wanted
bad.
to unload it. And then this weird thing happened because it's a money-losing property. But nevertheless, after he left office, when he put it up for sale, he was able to get a surprisingly high price for it. Why was that? Well,
This is one of the things that Trump recently has bragged about too, on how well he did on, he'll call it the post office building, but they took the old post office and they turned it into a hotel. And Trump has bragged about, I think he made somewhere like 80 or 90 million on this deal. He's bragged about it. And now understand how he wound up making money off of this deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're losing again. This is the same Donald Trump. This is a hotel who lost $70 million. 70 million, and Trump made 90 million on it. Why?
What are you? Someone in the what proof is there that the Trump that Trump made investigation go away? There was an investigation going on, and then it was stopped when Trump became president.
Yeah, what do you want? Like a
What do
voice
you
note
mean?
from Trump, or like you want
They no longer proceeded with the investigation after Obama was no longer president.
Yeah, this is kind of how this stuff works, right? Like when you catch a president or you catch a politician doing something they shouldn't do, it's not usually because they held a press conference and told you that that's what they did. Like it's weird how Trump people are under this impression that because Trump has told the truth about some things, that he's going to tell the truth about all things. But what we're trying, or what Rachel Maddow was showing here, is this company was in a lot of trouble. Donald Trump made that trouble go away, and now they are bailing him out time after time after time. And this is a company worth, I want to say $3 billion was their market. The CEO made 35, or yeah, just under 35 million in 2018. The CEO of this company made more than the CEO of Chase, who made 30 million. So yeah, this is a sizable company. They regularly give money to people like Ted Cruz, to Josh Hawley, to Donald Trump, to Marsha Blackburn. This looks an awful lot like a pay to make your problems go away scheme for them.
in part, it was because this same bank, Axos Bank, provided $190 million to grease the deal. Now, is that a lot of money for them to put into it? I don't know, but Trump and his companies pocketed nearly half that amount when the deal was done. So it seems like maybe that was plenty enough money to put into that deal to make it a sweet deal for him. So this one entity, this financial entity.
So Trump pocketed 95 million. Like,
on a venture that was losing 70 million a year. Yeah.
does everyone understand the math that we are talking about?
And
He
keep
was
in,
losing 70 million, was about to lose the property,
and this is, by the way, this is
and
Trump,
ended up making 90 million. All because every single thing we're talking about, all the illegality, all of the shady deals that make no sense, all of this is the same man.
Yeah, and at the same time, by the way, this Trump hotel was never more filled. Like, it was a bad business deal by Trump in the first place, but because he was president, people would go and they would spend there's been reporting after reporting after reporting of people spending exorbitant amounts of money at that hotel when they didn't really need to, but they just knew that if they spent a bunch of money there, they could get Trump's ear. So this is a company that was propped up and lost 70 million. Like, maybe they were stripping cash out of that too. That's the interesting thing about every time one of these investigations opens up into Donald Trump, is you find out more and more that this seems an awful lot like robbing Peter to pay Paul, like his entire life. He's just unloading properties.
He's
to
been
get
in
out
a
of them.
nonstop Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, for real, right? Like, that's it. It sure is feeling an awful lot like a Ponzi scheme. It's a little different because there's not investors in the same way, but like bank after bank after bank refuses to do business with him anymore. His old people who used to invest with him refuse to invest with him now. Nobody wants him to own the properties. They'll just give him licensing deals. Like, this is pretty par for the course for Donald Trump. And now we're at the end of the rope where he's run out of lenders, and this is who he's working with now, because he has to be bailed out. He has no choice. And this is one of the things, like, this is why we put in the emoluments clause. This is why we have things like the Hatch Act, is because one thing that we have, even from our founding fathers, that we've been very concerned about is the president being beholden to somebody besides the voters, right? Whether that's a foreign enemy, whether that's somebody that is just an investor, somebody with a lot of money, whoever it might be. Like, that's why we put these things into place. And Congress and the courts have done basically nothing to make sure that the emoluments clause and the Hatch Act were followed.
I don't want to bring, I just have to say this because this was like something I was really worried about and Jen just sent it. So this is breaking from X, but yeah, this is something that's been going on in the Arizona courts. Like, if you don't know what's going on in Arizona, like, okay, I'm going to prepare you. This is very bad news, especially if you're in Arizona, but I guess it's good news for the presidential election, but it's still sickening. So, right, what's been going on in Arizona is there has been a full, or is supposed to be in place, like a total ban on abortion, or near total ban on abortion, but the courts had held it up because it's based on this like insane 1864 law, and they had been adjudicating it in the courts. But right now it says breaking, Arizona Supreme Court rules to uphold the state's 1864 near total abortion ban, which will wipe out nearly all access in the state, currently up to 15 weeks. Voters will likely have the chance to override this ban in November via ballot initiative. So the good news is there are a lot of people in Arizona who are not going to let this stand on the ballot and are tired of I mean, our state legislature is controlled by, I mean, these people are not well. I'm not even going to talk about like party affiliation. These are just people who are unwell.
Yeah, and I don't mean to downplay that this is awful, because this is awful from now until we can get any of these laws changed.
It's terrifying. I'm not having sex. Sorry.
Yes. Sorry.
Until the election.
Sorry if that's what you guys were here for. You're gonna need to wait until mid-November to shoot your shot with Felice. But no, this happened in Florida too. We've now got Florida and Arizona, and this goes to show you just how deeply unaware of reality the Republican Party is right now, and like who's leading the party right now. Donald Trump is desperately going around, and we'll cover this a little bit later in detail, like desperately going around trying to like mix his message to get to the right people. They know this is a losing message, and what you're doing in Florida and Arizona, Arizona is expected to be close. Florida now looks like it's going to be surprisingly close. You are motivating a lot of people who may have wanted to sit this out, specifically people who might be a little less than happy with Joe Biden.
We're all voting policy. Now.
Yeah. There may be some people saying, look, I hate his foreign policy right now, but what else am I going to do here? What am I going to do? Not vote to protect myself? Those people are going to show up.
Have access to the health care I need. Like, this isn't I mean, Trump isn't some sort of like, Trump does what's good for Trump. That's why he's riding the fence on the abortion thing. We can get into this later. We don't need to talk about it. Sorry, I just read that and I had to say it.
Let's go back to learning Mo as well. Thanks, Mo.
About Don Hankey, the Christmas poo that backed Trump's bond.
Link to this usurious car loans guy. They've already dumped over $400 million on Trump since he left office. Not counting the tens of millions of dollars they dumped on Jared while Jared was in the Trump White House. And after.
So they gave Jared Kushner, who was a White House employee, tens of millions of dollars. They've given Trump $400 million, right, since he left the White House, not counting the bond that they're backing.
I'm looking at this was from 2018. In 2018, the Kushner companies received 80 million in financing from Axos. Just in 1 year, 80 million.
Yeah, and again, just because someone in the comments asked, and this is kind of, I know this is a longer piece and we kind of usually don't do these, but yeah, the hearing about Trump's bond, Letitia James is challenging it, and we're about to get into the bond right now, and Rachel Maddow is going to go through like what's so shady about it, but the hearing that will, where all of this is going to be presented, where they're going to say like, this guy doesn't have any business backing this bond, he doesn't have the funds, there's many issues that we'll go through about the bond. That's on the 22nd of April. So that is when the next hearing, right? So we can also say the bond isn't, the bond is going to be revoked, but we won't know until that next hearing.
And now it's these same folks who have come back and offered yet more. In the fraud trial against Trump's real estate business, he was told by the court to put up a bond for $464 million to cover the huge judgment against him in that fraud trial. Trump's lawyers, you will remember, told the court they'd approached 30 different firms about providing that bond. All of the firms, they said no. They said everybody they went to said no.
Oh, and this is how Alina Habba is about to be in a lot of trouble. And all Trump's lawyers. This is a separate issue than the shadiness. This is just about the lawyers, like essentially lying to the court.
Because of that, they said they had proven in practical terms, it's an impossibility to get a bond that big. No one will do it. We've gone to 30 different firms. It's impossible. We would have to put up real estate to be the collateral for a bond that big. Nobody willing to consider a bond that big will accept real estate as a collateral. Real estate as collateral, it cannot be done. Turns out, maybe that wasn't true. Turns out, could have been done. Because this same guy, the car loans guy, the pretend you're the pizza place, super high interest, call your boss, call your mom, car loan guy, the biggest shareholder in the bank that has one after another been paying off all of Trump's debts for him since he left office. This same guy says actually he'd be happy to put up the bond. He says that he told Trump's lawyers he would put up that bond. And yeah, explicitly, he'd take real estate as collateral. That was no problem.
So just to be clear, Trump's lawyers submitted to the court that there was no one. They had asked everyone. They applied over 30 places. No one would take real estate as collateral, and nobody could back a $400+ million bond. And that's why then the appeals court lowered the bond. And it's this same man, the same man that backed it, was willing to not only take the real estate as collateral, right, but also back the entire amount.
Right. Real quick, just if you're in the Discord, I dropped the link for the probes report. When people are asking, like, how do we know, like, why that this investigation just went away? There's a timeline. Like, Probes report does a good job. And it's really interesting when you read it. Like, the defense by, I guess, what were they called at the time before they were Axos? What was it again? Like, Internet Bank?
Bank of Internet USA.
Bank of Internet USA. Yeah, when they were still that. Their defense, see if this sounds familiar to you. All these attacks are just politically motivated internet trolls. Because basically we do business with Trump, and so these are political attacks by internet trolls. And then all of a sudden, for no reason, which the SEC has never provided a reason, all of a sudden the case was just dropped in June of 2017. Just dropped. No explanation whatsoever. We still have no explanation as to why it was dropped.
Trump's lawyers apparently never told the court that this guy had offered to post the bond. In fact, they told the court that no one would post this bond. The appeals court, apparently believing that no one would post the bond, then lowered the bond, lowered it down to $175 million, which, ta-da, was then covered by this guy who had already offered to put up the much larger amount. Even though the court was told by Trump's lawyers that no one would do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to make... If this ever comes out, here's what I'm going to guess. I don't think Donald Trump had the assets to get a $450 million bond. I think those assets are already leveraged other places, and I don't think he could get it. Otherwise, this story like this is kind of silly. There's no reason outside of, I guess, in two reasons. One, you're trying to pay less interest, so you're lying to the court saying that nobody can provide you a bond, which I don't believe you can lie to the court. I don't know. I don't
Well,
know if
that and
those
that's
rules
what
have
we'll find
changed.
again, guys. This will be adjudicated on April 22nd. There's a hearing specifically about this bond and the validity of it. So all of these things that Rachel Maddow's talking about, like the court will hear.
But I will say that it sure looks an awful lot like he was over leveraged and couldn't secure the bond that he needed.
What did Trump have to do to be the recipient of such generosity from a man who, after all, is not that generous? A man who, after all, would threaten illegally to lock you up for missing a car payment, according to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, whose bank.
That's what it is. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That is the bureau that forced Don Henke, the Christmas poo, to pay $48 million in fines. And when Trump became president, he defunded.
Charged a Harlem soul food restaurant 268% interest on their business loan.
Oh, 68, not 86.
A guy who demanded daily payments from a small business in Massachusetts that he was charging over 90% interest to, right? This does not seem like a guy who's involved in a lot of super generous business dealings. What's he charging Trump for this $175 million favor? Reuters, quote, Don Henke, the billionaire businessman whose company provided the $175 million bond that Trump posted in his New York civil fraud case, told Reuters that the fee his firm charged the former U.S. president for the bond was, quote, low. Henke declined to disclose the fee. Lawyers say surety companies typically charge a fee of between 1% and 2% of the face value of the bond, which in this case would mean his fee should have been somewhere between $1.75 and $3 million. Quote, Henke says he now feels his company did not charge Trump enough. Why does he feel that way? Quote,
Oh.
because of the New York Attorney General's subsequent scrutiny of the bond, as well as all of the media attention around it.
And because
The
he's not going
Christmas
to pay you.
Hanky's in trouble.
Imagine trying to collect a debt on somebody who, look how hard it is to get Donald Trump to, like, just to get a court case to actually make it to court. Look at how long he's able to extend out. Like, he's fighting the U.S. government, unlimited resources, and they can't get him into court. Imagine how impossible it would be to be a debt collector trying to collect against Donald Trump, the front runner for the GOP. Like, just imagine that. He's, I think he's okay taking the loss. I think he knows that. I'm guessing that he looks at this and says, you know what? Maybe I've made more than this off of my deals with Trump, and this maybe I'm okay taking this risk, or maybe it's a gift. Who knows?
Henke said in an interview with Reuters, quote, we probably didn't charge enough. Didn't charge him enough?
became president, the investigation disappeared. And how thankful are you then for that?
And what's
Like,
a hundred?
remember what happened? The whistleblower that alerted the DOJ said, the internal auditor, right, for Bank of Internet said
USA.
our Bank of Internet's clients were who? Criminals, foreign and domestic, and like uh, people in charge of oil-rich countries.
Yeah, they took an oath to serve all criminals, both foreign and domestic. I think that's part of their what do you call that? Your core values. I think that was part of it. Just
So
real
yeah,
quick,
like if you got me out of a case that big, you know what I mean? Would I be after Trump's presidency bailing him out? Probably. Yeah.
real quick. I do see. I think opposition to the box. You might be wrong. Is the name? If you'll just message Jen, just make sure you're opposition. If you want to talk about this, if not, if you want to talk about something else, let's just wait till this story's done and then we'll move on. But if you want to talk about something we've covered with this story, just let Jen know. Also, real quick, there's up there is the Cash App and the Venmo. If you would like to donate to our cause, we do rely on your generosity to keep this going, and I will read any comment that you send along with that. As well as if you're looking for an invite to our Discord, shoot Jen or one of our moderators a message, and we'll get you an invite to the Discord. Proceed. How'd I do?
And
That
guys,
wasn't
keep
bad.
tapping. That was good. Keep tapping the screen, guys. Most importantly, we want to get to the For You page. Keep tapping the screen.
And
Yep.
certainly there is a disturbance in the cosmos to have a man whose company was sued by the Justice Department for charging
There he
illegally
is.
high interest rates to active duty members of the U.S. military and illegally.
Oh yeah, if you missed that part, he was defrauding and leveraging members of the U.S. military illegally. He had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines for predatory loans against veterans.
Yeah, there's laws against that. You can't go
Repossessing
collect against
soldiers.
somebody who's in Afghanistan fighting for our country. You can't do that. Sorry. But there we go. There's the Republicans again. These are just good Republican friends who make their money off of scamming people who are poor or people who are in the military. Anybody they can scam, Republicans are pretty fond of.
Yeah, I mean, this man, there's nobody that this man will not rip off except Trump. But veterans, you know what I mean? People who fought for our country, sure, why
Well,
not?
is it not a ripoff? They kind of own him now. Like he gives them a get out of jail free card. He's worth billions. It's 175 million. If that's what he loses, is that worth keeping yourself out of jail? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is. And based on just the things that they caught him for that weren't like criminally tried, yes, I think that in this guy's mind, and it's very clear from with his behavior after Trump left office, right? Like what Trump did for him in making that DOJ investigation go away clearly has been very worthwhile to this man, right? And he's very appreciative. And again, think about what Trump's proved. Like if Trump gets back in office, there's many lucrative ways to leverage that Don Hankey, the Christmas poo, is probably looking forward to taking advantage of.
And before people say like, "Oh, this just happens in politics. This is what it is," I would like to point out that John Hankey has spent a lot of money on Republicans over the years. He gave money to Marco Rubio. He gave money to Mitt Romney. But he basically, I mean, it would be like $100,000. And then when Trump came in and he got that get out of jail free card, my goodness, did the donations change. Now we're in the millions of dollars. Now he's bailing them out of business loans. Now he's bailing out the Kushners, giving them bridge loans so they can complete construction projects that didn't go as planned at very favorable rates. This guy was always involved, but it wasn't until it appears Trump basically said like, "Hey, we are pay for play," that he started paying.
Exactly.
So he could become a billionaire. There is a disturbance in the cosmos that same guy is now volunteering to a news organization. Yeah, it was a real low fee. I charged him for this most recent $175 million favor I posted for him. After I already shoveled him, after me and these entities with which I'm associated already shoveled him more than $400 million before this. Yeah, I didn't charge him much. Why should I? Maybe I should have charged him a little more. There's something that blots out the sun in that story. Except not in a way that makes you appreciate the wonders of the universe. It makes you want to pound nails into something with your forehead if you're like me. But as mentioned there in that Reuters story, also now not just a news story, it is a legal story and a legal question. Because this bond, this remarkable gift from this incredible company, is how Trump is avoiding potential bankruptcy. It's how Trump is avoiding potentially having to sign over his bank accounts and his brokerage accounts and selling off his assets just 1 week before he becomes a defendant in his first criminal trial. The New York Attorney General's office has called for the court to scrutinize this gift, this bond, and has called on the company that provided it to justify it. Just, cosmically, ethically, this is a heck of an on-ramp to the would-be next Republican presidential administration. Legally, though, will it stand? And how will that be determined? Joining us now is former New York Assistant Attorney General Adam Pollack. That title means he used to work in the New York Attorney General's office. Mr. Pollack, it's really nice to have you with us. Thanks very much for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Let me first just ask you, in my explaining that, did I explain any of it the wrong way around or put the wrong cast on it? I feel like I'm not a lawyer, and all of us are learning about sureties and bonds and bonding agencies and all these things sort of by the seat of our pants as we try to follow this politician through the pinball machine that he's put us all in.
I think you've got it perfectly, and I think it raises a lot of questions, both, as you said, both from a political or regulatory standpoint and also from a legal standpoint. And I think that we're going to have an interesting hearing in court on this coming up on the 22nd.
What are the legal issues that stand out to you from the reporting?
Again, if you heard him, so the hearing is on the 22nd. Because I know some people in the comments were saying the 24th. The hearing about this is on the 22nd. And Trump doesn't necessarily have to be there.
We've had on this issue thus far.
So this bond, as you said, allows Trump to stave off enforcement, stops the Attorney General from seizing his assets, seizing his bank accounts, seizing his real estate. And the bond is supposed to secure the judgment, or at least secure the $175 million portion. And this bond fails to do that. It didn't come from those 30 New York insurers that he mentioned. It came out of left field, or as the reporting you described.
In terms of who's allowed to do these sort of things and under what terms, how will this company have to justify the bond according to the demands of the New York Attorney General, and how will the court evaluate whether it's kosher?
So a couple of things. First, procedurally, these bonds by law must be written by a New York insurer. This insurer, Knight Insurer, is not a New York insurer. So just from the get-go, it is not a valid bond in New York. That's the first thing. And even if you look beyond the procedural requirements, an insurer has to have enough capital, enough money to make good, right?
Did you get that, Big Boat? You're asking what's it matter? He's explaining it to you.
He's doing it for you. He's answering your questions. What a guy.
I'd very quickly run out of money, right? If I went on onto the street and wrote car insurance. Similarly, the law ensures, the New York law ensures that an insurer has to have enough capital, 10 times as much capital as any given policy or any given bond. Here they have very far from 10x, and they say conveniently, well, the New York law doesn't apply to us. We're not bound by the 10x requirement because we're not a New York insurer. It's awfully circular.
Do you hear that? Like under New York law, number one, it has to be a New York insurer. Knight is not a New York insurer. And number two, you have to have 10x, right? The revenue you're insuring or the money you're insuring. They don't have even close to that.
Imagine
And
getting
their
pulled over.
argument is, oh, but we're not a New York insurer, so we're not bound by that law. Well, then it's illegal because you have to be a New York insurer.
Yeah, like the laws applied to the state. Imagine getting pulled over and they're like, "You need a driver's license." You're like, "I don't have a driver's license." They're like, "Yeah," and thinking that's a good defense. You can't do business in New York without following the rules of New York. So shocker here, shock. And this is what Trump does. This is what's crazy. Is like he'll just put this out. Like no good attorney, every good attorney in the world would have known this going in, and their attorneys probably do know this. But Trump just tells them like, "Fuck it, we're gonna do it anyways." And this is what Trump does. He's done this his entire life in every court case. Is he just does whatever he wants to say, and he forces the judges to do something like try and put him in jail, and they don't want to because judges don't want to throw a high-profile person in jail for financial nonviolent crimes. Like generally speaking, especially a liberal judge, they're not going to want to do that. So Trump just tries to call their bluff on everything. He won't keep any of the rules. He'll try and get special treatment throughout the entire thing, which is what he's done. Again, like this two-tier justice system works out really, really, really well for Donald Trump.
Yeah, we're not bound by those rules because we're not a New York insurer, but we are not a New York insurer, and you shouldn't consider. Yeah. Let me just ask you about a point about how the court was communicated with on this point. It seems I don't know. It just seems wrong in a layman's sense that Trump's lawyers told the appeals court, we can't have a $464 million bond, nobody will pay it. And the gentleman who's put up this funds now says openly to numerous news organizations, oh, I offered to pay the $464 million bond, and I made that offer before the court ruled that the bond amount should be lowered. Now, the court didn't explain the reason that it was going to lower the ruling, but presumably it bore in their decision that they'd been advised that nobody could put up a bond that big. Should Trump and his lawyers have advised the court that they did, in fact, have somebody on the line who was willing to pay the larger bond amount before the court ruled that that bond amount would be reduced?
They absolutely should have advised the court. They absolutely should have told the court, we think that we have somebody on the line, not a New York insurer, but we think we have somebody on the line who can guarantee the full amount and will do what's necessary to get licensed, maybe retroactively, but will come into New York and get licensed. They didn't say that. And Justice Engelron, who ruled on Trump's financial chicanery in the first place, is going to be holding a hearing on all this. And
Just to get you that's how great this is, because I was like, oh God, I hope it's not an appellate judge like Judge Engoron, who's already been dealing with all the buffoonery and Trump be clowning himself in court, is now going to be back in front of Judge Engoron explaining this. Well, his lawyers are. I mean, Haba is on. Was Haba? I can't even remember. Yeah, she was.
Yeah, she was on this case. I saw Gunther Eagleman, who I hate, tweet the other day, like, if I ever get divorced, I want Alina Haba as my attorney. And like, at first that was kind of like, it was kind of a flex for them. Like they thought like, oh, this is, but she's now lost every case, and like in embarrassing fashion. And she's still this is what's crazy about this MAGA movement is like their heroes are all fucking
Why is everyone
losers.
in the comments saying that Haba was fired? Or
I
I've
don't
seen
know.
a few people, someone, I feel like someone said that. Well, no, if you're talking about in February when that rumor came out, that's not true. She has not been removed from any cases.
This is from 8 hours ago. Haba has been replaced by Armin Morian as the attorney representing Alan Weisselberg. So
Yeah,
she got removed from
that
that.
makes
I
sense
don't.
because he just pled to perjury in the
Yeah.
in the other case that Haba's working. So yeah,
With her,
I don't think
her
she
other
could defend.
client's
He's
case.
pleading to perjury in the case in her other case. So yeah, I think he needs outside representation at that point. Yeah,
Anyways,
Weisselberg is pleading to perjury.
this is just further evidence that she is a dog shit attorney. And MAGA doesn't, like, MAGA has completely lost the fucking plot. Like, they are just celebrating losses right and left. And no matter what comes out, they just celebrate it. They're like, oh my God, how good is Alina Haba? Bad. She's bad. She keeps losing. And I don't know a great deal about attorneys except for dating fake ones. And I know that you want to win cases, generally speaking. You want to
I just
win.
heard that. I didn't get it at first.
Yeah, it was quick. You want to win the cases, and she's not winning. She keeps fucking losing. And Donald Trump also lost in 2020. And the people, the Republican House, they're losing. All the heroes in MAGA are losers. And you guys have just changed your minds completely. Like, you know what we're going to do?
Not Maud. We're not talking about Maud.
No,
can't
that's
let
not what
this
I'm
go
talking.
on.
Yeah, I did not.
No,
think
that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Different person who's not a lawyer.
But like being wrong and losing time after time is who rises to the top in the GOP now. Like all the losers, they're just at the top, and you guys love them, and you just pretend that they're winning. Donald Trump has lost nearly $500 million in legal cases with a judge and sometimes a jury and sometimes not a jury when Alina Habba forgot to get a jury when she could have. But 0 for 3. He has won 0% of his cases. And every time he loses, we talked about this with Jeff yesterday, they just show up again. They're like, winning is what we're doing. We're just winning. Sorry.
Which case was it? The E. Jean Carroll case, right? Like with Judge Kaplan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we watched, if you were following that case and like a lot of the transcripts from that case, the court, it's literally Haba being instructed how to correctly enter things into evidence. I mean, it's bless her, she's barely hanging on. Actually, she's doing quite well for herself. Like every time she's a full-time resident at Mar-a-Lago. Like let's not, I'm not knocking her grift because the grift is strong.
Listen, and I'm in no position to
I'm all about women getting a come up. Like that's fine. Harper's doing well. You know what I mean? She's not a good lawyer, but on the other hand, if that's get it how you live, whatever.
I'm in no position to criticize somebody for entering incorrectly, but I did learn I've learned from my mistakes, and it doesn't seem that Alina Habba has learned from her mistakes. She just is going to keep on doing it.
And these kind of fun and games is going to come out at that hearing.
Former New York Assistant Attorney General Adam Pollack. Mr. Pollack, thanks for making the time. Thanks for clarifying.
Okay, so that's basically that. Do you want to talk about, yeah, so, well, do we want to recap again, if you just got here, what we just did? Rachel Maddow did an amazing investigative journalism piece where she tied together, which is scary because it's all publicly available knowledge, like all different news outlets. Like Don Hankey is giving interviews. Like that's the point Rachel's making, is like, this guy's not trying to hide the shady stuff he's done, or that he didn't charge Trump, or that he's not properly bonded in New York to even be backing this, be backing this bond or surety. It's the surety that backs the bond. Is that?
Yeah, I just want to know. Yeah, at what point is enough enough? And this is why it's. By the way, for any of the MAGA that were waiting, I did see somebody was waiting for a while. You're welcome to jump in the box now. We can talk about this. But like, when is enough
if you guys,
enough?
Any Republicans who want to debate, we're done with what we were doing.
Like, how would you even know if Donald Trump was guilty? How would you figure that out? Because every time he's guilty, you say he's innocent based on evidence that doesn't exist that you think will come out, and based on this idea that there's a two-tier justice system. Just asking yourself, like, how would you ever know if Donald Trump was innocent? If he was found guilty, how would you know that he was innocent? Where would you go to get that information? How would you verify that? You wouldn't. You have no idea. Like, this is a guy who keeps losing time after time after time, doing corrupt thing after corrupt thing after corrupt thing, and you show up every day pretending that you're winning. It's wild to me. This is what makes political discourse in this country really difficult right now, is that we legitimately are living in reality and then an alternate reality. And that alternate reality is like sunshine and rainbows, except for we're banning the rainbows.
Okay, you know what we should do, as long as I have my computer out? I think, and Maggot, you guys might want to come up and talk about this. It might help. I think we should go over, because I can pull up, I think I can here pretty easily. Well, I want to talk about Lindsey Graham and Mike Pence, they're not going to be around for much longer, the rate we're going. They're not doing so well.
Poor Lindsey.
Mike Pence. Oh my gosh, Mike Pence did not have a good day. I hope at this point, I think for a long time, like Mike Pence really was trying, like wanted people to see his point of view, and maybe he's given up on that. Maybe he's given up on like.
I feel like if you're Mike Pence, there was a day where the guy that you were vice president for was like cheering on the people who were chanting "Hang Mike Pence" and tweeting like he deserved it. I don't know after that how many, and then was like, I'm not going with Secret Service. I have no idea what you guys are up to. After that, I don't know if any days are really that bad in comparison. Like, he's had the ultimate bad day where he showed up to do his job and his boss was like, get him, and then he survives. So maybe this is just like it comes off more to me like he just doesn't give a fuck anymore. It's like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna just be an unabashed like Christian nationalist, and I'm gonna attack Trump from the right.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, like Lindsey Graham, Senator Flip Flop, and this is my thing about this is my thing about Lindsey Graham. Like basically since John McCain passed away, like Lindsey Graham is a sidekick, right? He's a bottom. Let's just all say it. Lindsey Graham's the bottom. And he used to be John McCain's sidekick, and they were doing good work together. And wherever they went, wherever you saw John McCain, Lindsay was behind him, smiling, and it was good. And Lindsay was doing positive things. But with John McCain passed away, and Lindsay was lost. You know what I mean? Lindsay did not know where to go, and he was looking for another top to tell him what to do with himself because he has no idea what to do when someone is instructing Lindsay what he believes in, what he should be focusing on. And so
Yeah, the top
poor
leads.
Lindsay has lost his way.
Yeah, the top leads, and the bottom generates the power, the force to push through, right? Yeah,
We're not
and with
talking
no
about
top to
soaking.
lead, what are you even generating that power for? And Lindsey Graham doesn't seem to know. He's just out there sitting on a fence, humping the air, and I had no idea what to do.
Okay. So, yeah, so Trump put out, Trump teased over the weekend, he's putting out his stance on abortion, which we played the video yesterday, which his stance is basically wink, wink, far right. Like, I have to ride the fence right now. We're at the point of the presidential election where the only thing that matters, the only way we win is polling moderate voters. So I've got to backtrack on all the stuff I said about a national abortion ban, and I've got to leave it to states' rights.
Our favorite Tanky is here. What's up, Tanky Fox?
I don't even know what a tanky is.
Yeah, sure.
Sounds
sure.
like something derogatory.
Yeah,
though.
I've never heard of a Tanky before. This
I-
is the first time I've heard it.
It's no, I've heard the word, but I've never actually given the definition.
Yeah, I bet. What's up, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, buddy?
Good. I haven't seen you in a long time. We actually randomly talked about you yesterday. We were talking about tankies, and I said, I think Guy is a tanky. That's what.
Well,
that's
can
what I
you
came up
define that word for me? Because I'm not familiar with it.
with. Well, Felice, do you want to give the definition you gave yesterday of what a tanky is?
I didn't give a definition, but I mean it's what, like Putin apologists?
Yeah, Putin apologists like they're
I
left,
didn't give
but
a
like,
definition of it though. I don't have I don't know like what a specific. I mean, do you want me to look? I can look it up on the internet, but
Yeah. Anyways, what's up? You may not.
No,
know
no,
tanky,
I'm
just feel
genuinely curious. Like it's like a
You've never
Putin
heard
sycophant.
You've never heard of a tanky.
No, I've heard the word being used. I just never understood it. Is it an acronym? Is it an abbreviation? Is it what's it actually mean? I have no idea. Genuine though.
I think it's just for like authoritarian communists. I think that was originally what it was, and then the tankies have largely become like it's weird. Like they're communists, but they're almost indistinguishable from like the alt right. Outside of like they're like, oh, we like communists, and the alt right's like, oh, we're libertarians. But everything else they
okay. I
tend
know
to
what I
find, like,
remember
common
now
ground
what you're
on.
talking about. I remember we were talking at the very beginning of the live, and you were talking about I was explaining that there's a guy on TikTok who combines, he's a psychologist he's a political psychologist, and he combines the two, and we were talking about how the tankies, like there's no distinguishing feature between like right-wing authoritarianism and the tankies. I can play that video. I have it bookmarked. Do you want me to play it really quick?
I actually just Googled it for you guys. If you want to know, it's an interesting where it derives from.
Isn't it from the tanks? Because they like
Yeah.
worship the Soviet tank fleet.
Yeah, specifically it was used to distinguish party members who spoke out in defense of the Soviet use of tanks to suppress the Hungarian Revolution of the 1956 and 68 Prague Spring. So it's basically, generally applied to authoritarian communists, especially those who support acts of repression by such regimes as their allies. Do you take me as a tanky? That's random.
Well, you've said you're a communist, but you're in,
I've never said
but
I'm
you
a communist,
find
ever,
but you
ever,
find
ever,
most What'd you say? You're far
He's just
left?
said he never said he
No.
was a communist. Do you know this guy or not,
Yeah,
Jay?
well, no, we've talked because he's always like, I'm way left of you. I don't know what's left of me outside of communism. What's left of me?
Well, I mean, I can give you a rundown if you like.
Yeah, sure.
All right. I mean, I stand for progressive ideals like single-payer healthcare, universal post-secondary education, ending for-profit criminal justice, private prisons and the like. But in many ways, I'm very libertarian. I'm a staunch Second Amendment supporter. I believe in a strong foreign policy. I don't agree with appeasement policy. You know what I mean? So I don't know where tanky would come from when describing me at least, but I'm glad that we were able to fix that. And
Yeah, we got it. There we go.
all right,
Definitely
What
not
did
a
we come up to
tanky.
talk
Definitely
about?
not a tanky. Sorry.
Definitely not.
I don't. Listen, I'll never believe anything Guy says. We've had a lot of fun together, but I still have no idea if he is like a Russian asset or like if he works for the Trump team. He's very mysterious. You'll figure it out.
Well, I'll take the mysterious part, but come on, man. Like that's borderline blue anon conspiracies.
Yeah, that's all right. That's fair. That's fair. So, what brought you up today?
I haven't seen you in a minute. Wanted to discuss with you. Wanted to talk to you about how you feel Biden's foreign policy is panning out. If you have any criticism specifically with his, handling and approach to the Mideast issues that we're currently facing.
Yeah, I think he's complete. Yeah, I think he's largely bungled it. I think he started as a Zionist, and now he's feeling pressure from the left side of his party to at least recognize the atrocities that are happening there and try to promote a ceasefire. I don't. It doesn't come off as very authentic to me. His initial reaction was to be a Zionist. I think that's ultimately who he is. But I'm happy to see that the pressure from the left is at least getting him to consider better options.
Yeah, I will say that I have been extremely critical. Can I read you a quote from Menachem Begin, Prime
Yeah,
Minister
go
of
ahead.
Israel in the 70s? We will stand by our principles, we will defend them, and when necessary, we will die for them again with or without your aid. This was attributed to Senator Joe Biden, who wanted to put pressure on Israel by threatening military aid, during the crises between 73 until 79. Where Joe Biden, as a junior senator at the time, wanted to threaten Israel with cutting off aid in order to get ideas and policies that were being championed at the time by him. So, although Biden has, on
What were
many
the ideas
occasions,
he was championing? Do you know?
more of like appeasement and capitulation and a lack of understanding of what it means to engage in geopolitics in the Mideast vis-a-vis, at the time at least, the pan-Arabist socialist regimes that were by and large within Egypt, Syria, and the like, especially in the wake of the 1973 war between Israel and Egypt and the Arab world. And although Biden, he's clearly stated that he's a Zionist and he stands with Israel, the unfortunate reality is that we're seeing, this is my perspective, it's one person's opinion, take it for what it is, a weakness and a lack of understanding of the threats emanating from the Middle East and attempting to apply soft power and a soft approach to regimes and entities that only understand strength. We see it, by trying to handcuff Israel in its war against the age group in Gaza. We see it with a weakened approach to proxies such as Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran proxies, the Houthi issues. Biden, when he came into office, he removed the Houthis
So,
from the international.
real quick, just to make sure are you saying that like Biden has not been forceful enough in backing Israel and backing the fight is what I assume you would look at like extremism?
Correct, 100%.
Interesting.
In the days following October 7th, the Biden administration articulated to the Netanyahu administration that if Hezbollah were to launch operations against Israel, that the U.S. would defend Israel. And that's very, very clearly stated that the U.S. would engage in military operations against Hezbollah. And the prerequisite was so that Israel doesn't initiate the war. Because all the intelligence was saying that Hezbollah is going to join in some capacity or another, and Israel wanted to preempt it. But the United States made it very clear that if you preempt it, you are inviting an attack. And therefore, Israel didn't preempt it. And as a result, Hezbollah struck first blood, if you want to call
Like
it that.
I think you'd get, this isn't a place where I'm an expert, but I know you get from people who are, or who at least understand it better than me, you're going to get a lot of pushback there saying that pretending that this started on October 7th would be kind of silly. Pretending that like it was unprovoked would be silly. Pretending that this hasn't been going on for decades. Like you can link back to the whatever the last thing was before October 7th that Israel had done to the Palestinians. My issue is this. My issue is that like we've been in the Middle East. We've been involved in the Middle East for decades now, and every time we try and fight a regime change war, the regime that takes over is worse every single time. And to say like these groups only understand strength, I don't know. Maybe they only understand survival. Maybe that's all they understand. Maybe all they understand is betrayal, which we've done repeatedly to the people in the Middle East. Like time after time, we'll switch sides and we betray the people that we once worked with. I don't know if I would agree that all they understand is strength. Likely what they understand from the United States is confusing. Like I bet they don't have a lot of understanding other than we're going to try and get that oil. We're going to do that.
You're not completely off base. I mean, there's no doubt a lot of suspicion and lack of trust within it. But in the same breath, I think that a lot of these regimes, a lot of these entities respect strength, respect power, and are invigorated by weakness and hesitancy. Like I wanted to give you I want to give you the example
before this of the groups like I don't understand how we're looking at the difference between Biden and Trump and saying like this is weakness, that Biden shows weakness here. Why? Just because Trump would you think Trump would have just obliterated them off the map? Is that
No.
reasoning?
I'll give you a fantastic example. When U.S. forces were attacked and targeted by Iranian proxies in Iraq and Syria, Trump greenlit the strike on Soleimani in Iraq. That was a targeted strike, had no collateral damage, no civilian casualties, unalived the head of the IRGC in Iraq, which at the time, Iraq is, I guess, considered an ally, considering they're still very much heavily dependent on US aid and support. Now, that strike, a lot of people were critical, but a lot of people, especially within the military ranks, said it was a brilliant use of the sword. It require a massive
I don't know that that's like the right people to take to say like, oh, this was brilliant. Like the same people that are saying this is brilliant are the people who have been leading us and who were soldiers and now are leaders of 50, 60, 70 years over there in the Middle East. I don't know that those are the people that I don't know that I take their word for it. Because what happened after the Soleimani attack? Like we had, like it was quiet for a little bit, and now what? Now it's worse.
Well,
Every time
yeah.
it gets worse.
Let-
And there
let
may
me-
be
let me-
an instance of peace for a little bit, but then it gets worse. So our options, it seems like, are just continuously to carpet bomb the Middle East or like try something different. And where I'm frustrated is that nobody's tried anything different. Like we just keep doing the same shit every time.
That's not true, because the difference in approach, I'll give you an example. During the Obama administration was the negotiated Iran nuclear deal, okay, which resulted in the easing of sanctions, which resulted in the release of funding. Now, what did we get in return? And when I say we, it's the greater we, the Western liberal democratic world. We got an invigorated Iran that was able to now leverage billions of dollars to fund its proxies, which as a result, you see Hezbollah Kateb in Iraq, you see Hezbollah in Lebanon, you see the Houthis in Yemen, which have been upgraded and heavily funded to the point, like, look what the Houthis are now doing in the Red Sea. 4 years ago, this would have been impossible, because 4 years ago, prior to Biden coming in and removing them from the international T list, they were crippled. They had no means to receive any funding. Fast forward a short 3 years later, they have cruise missiles, they have ballistic missiles, they have drones, they have a force of spanning tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of ready, abled warriors, wanting to engage in combat operations.
Why did you leave out the part where all of this happened after we withdrew from the nuclear deal? Why'd you leave that part out?
It's not a matter of leaving it out. I think that,
No,
remember
I'm just
that
wondering why that part wasn't included in what you're talking about right now. It feels an awful lot like you want to pin this on Obama, but you're going to leave out the fact that like
I'm actually-
our enforcement mechanism, our ability to like be involved with Iran and to have oversight in Iran, Trump pulled out of that. Like it was just weird that you left that part out.
I think that Trump
I also have
pulling
a
it.
question. Like, what is your position? What are you saying? Like, you're saying a lot of opinions of how you like. Are you just saying I think this is how I feel things should have happened?
I'm saying that I think that the Biden administration's foreign policy, specifically in the Middle East, has been an abject failure. Whether it is easing of sanctions and releasing of funds to Iran that results in the funding of its proxies and invigorating them to show that the United States
Are
can't
you talking
bend.
about the money from from Qatar?
I'm talking about frozen assets within U.S. Institutions and banks, the release of up to $10 billion that should have never been
Well, what can
released,
you
should have
cite a
never been
source so I
accessed
can
to them.
talk? I just want to be clear what money
Sure.
you're talking about. Like,
Let me
so,
look it up. Let me look
and
up
when was it
exactly.
released?
Yep. Give me a
And let's be
second.
clear on that. Like you're talking
Or
about
you and I can look it up if you just tell me like what
you're talking about the
you know what
money
I mean?
that
I don't need you to do the
that was released that they're allowed to use only for humanitarian, and that we have a third party
well,
controlling
if
that
it's the
money, right?
Qatar, that's what I'm asking him. Are you talking about the Qatar aid or that was not and it was refrozen. It's still sitting there. And that bank account was created by the Trump administration. And it was originally held in South Korea banks, and for reasons that other reasons, it was moved to Qatar,
So
and
if you
it
want,
is still
yeah,
frozen.
if you want to
So I
look it
just
up,
want to be clear on
look
that.
up
It never moved from the account.
look up the sanctions waivers that the Biden administration has granted to Iran,
San-
which results in them
Sanctions
being,
waivers.
yeah, sanctions waivers, sanctions waiver,
Right.
Biden administration grant.
Yeah, that allowed Iraq to like pay Iran for energy, right?
Allowed not just Iraq, other countries as well. It removed sanctions that allowed for Iranian oil to be able to be sold elsewhere. You know, the sanctions that have been put on Iran by and large, specifically by Trump when he exited the Iran nuclear deal, crippled Iran in many, many ways, crippled their ability to fund these proxies. And when Biden basically removed many of these sanctions, eased them, whatever terminology you want to use, he invigorated them, and the result is what we're seeing right now on the ground. Now, I'm not saying that history began on that day. A long history, naturally, just like there's a long history between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Nevertheless, the minute that you show weakness, the minute that you show appeasement, you are going to be met with a more invigorated enemy
I
that
feel like we're talking to Reagan. Like you're saying you're a
no.
progressive. It's like what in the your foreign policy, first of all, is very much at odds with your progressive domestic policy. Like you literally have two personalities. You want us to wreak havoc and violence and rain it down upon the Middle East, but then you're a progressive at home. Like make it
No,
make sense,
Felice,
first of all.
I'll elaborate. I'll tell you,
Marry, yeah, exactly. Bring
I've
it and
lived
tie
in,
it together for
I've
me.
lived and worked around the world. I've lived in these countries. I understand their culture. I understand the mentality. I understand these regimes. Right? We're not dealing with the
I mean,
countries.
that's a little silly to say that, guy. Like,
Why
in
though?
all
Why?
fairness, to because you don't. Living in another country does not mean you understand their regimes. Does not
Why?
mean that you understand the lived experience. It doesn't mean anything. You're speaking to your travel right now in order to make a point. Like,
Well,
I
I
think
could
that's a
speak
little
to my,
silly to say
I
that.
could speak to my education if you like. I have an
But like, if
undergraduate.
imagine you're from Iran and you come to America and you live in Alabama and you go back to Iran. You're like, I understand America now. I was like, no, you lived in Alabama. You understand like that. You understand only the people that you associated with. I don't think living in another country necessarily gives you like a broad view of how everybody feels.
Fair point. Fair point. I'll then speak to my education, okay? Because I have an undergrad and master's degree specifically in political
Now, the
science.
MAGAs aren't going to like that, but I
Focus,
appreciate your education. I appreciate it.
focusing, and I went to good institutions. I went to King's College in London in the War Department and studied terrorism and security specifically. And I have a dissertation. I'm not going to tell you what the dissertation because I don't want people to look me up and dox me. The
I
point
know what
being
it
is,
is. It was Putin is goaded. That's the name of it by Guy Fawkes. That's pretty sure.
I've done research studies on the Iranian nuclear program, understanding their breakout time and how they're. I mean, they're in essence they have 6 months before having a nuke at any given point in time because of the steps that they've taken leading up to this point. The reason that they haven't broken out and actually acquired the nuke is because they haven't needed to yet. But again, look, I'm just one dude on TikTok. Take it for what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not here preaching scripture from Mount Sinai, right? I'm just
I
saying
like
that
your brain. I'm enjoying this. Just like I've lived around the world. Where I specifically have lived in many countries in South America. Like I have a history degree. So I'm very interested in what you're saying. Like I have a question. I just want to follow up because I was looking up what we were talking about. The Biden sanctions waiver can award billions to Iran. Like this is, are you talking about basically, you're talking about the waiver signed and transmitted to the US Congress late Wednesday, which this article is from March 14th, just so everyone knows, allows Iraq to purchase electricity from Iran for billions of dollars. But the deal is, and how it enriches Iran, probably you're saying in what in your opinion is a negative way, is they can pay for it by transferring hard currencies to accounts in third countries such as Oman and Qatar. Is that
that as well, but not only what it means in terms of them being able to leverage it in order to print money, for example. It is like a credit that is known to that they have that then they in turn can spend money, allocate money in the sum of billions of dollars
okay?
towards
But
their
Iraq has
proxies.
long been exempted from Iran sanctions. Like you do know that, right? Like that's not, this isn't, we're not reinventing the wheel,
I'm hearing you. Keep going.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's my point. Like, it's not a new thing that we're talking about. Iraq has long been able to do business in a different way with Iran, like when we have sanctions on them.
It's also the other thing is like that money, those sanctions that were eased, they also came with strings attached. Like that money could only be used for like budget support and debt repayment, right? So it's possible some of that money made it to like of course that's possible. But I'm saying like when Biden did, they added strings to that, and there is oversight. But that money is supposed to go to budget support and debt repayment,
Right,
and
but
that's the only place it's allowed to go.
what does debt repayment mean? It means that you can accrue more
Repaying debt.
debt. Right, no, but it means that they can accrue more debt towards the programs that they want for their proxies, and then afterwards pay for it through these channels. Again,
Sure. I
tightening
mean,
the
what's
clamps
the
on a
what
regime
should
like
we have
Iraq.
done then?
This
Just for
says the Biden administration claims that the money going into these accounts can only be used to purchase non-sanctionable goods, but so far there have been no account. Well, I mean, yeah, because this just went into effect.
If you want another thing to Google, look up dual use technology and equipment. Now, the problem with what a lot of what Iran does is that it can procure equipment, materials, and whatnot that have a very specific civil application, but also have an application towards their military goals, whether it's the development of drones, ballistic missiles, or their nuclear program, right? Like there's stories from back in the 2000s when they're like, well, we need excavating and large machinery to build infrastructure. Sure, naturally, that's something that you would want to use, but it also helps them in building their bunkers that are 100 feet in the ground where they have their centrifuges and their other equipment and tech and materials that they're using towards their military goals. Now, I'm not here to try to specifically fear monger against one entity or another. I'm just recognizing the threats, not only to our allies in the region, specifically Israel, but to the greater world stability. Because look what's happened. Houthis are a ragtag group of people who 3 years ago had nothing. There was a massive famine in Yemen. They couldn't even feed their own people. Now Biden, the I guess compassionate, empathetic human being that he is, recognizes and said, okay, if we ease sanctions, it'll allow for aid to come in and for this problem to be solved. The consequence of that, though, or the collateral issues with it, is as a result, the Houthis have grown to a type of power that has been able to disturb global trade, to
so
attack
what's so
ship.
what?
I
Go ahead.
can't. So you're literally saying that we should have starved them out. We
Right.
should have
Yeah.
we should have genocided people and done it in a very awful way, like what's happening in the Congo.
No, no, no. I think
Slow starvation. And you said because Biden's a weak individual and allowed aid to get in, that
Biden
you
doesn't understand realpolitik. And let me preface this because during the last decade or so, before the Biden administration, Saudi Arabia has been engaging in a hot conflict against the Houthis with the goal of reinstalling the legitimate, if you will, depending on how you look at it, Yemenite government that's right now in the east of the country. Now, the Biden administration basically handcuffed them because the minute that he came into power, stopped selling certain types of munitions to Saudi Arabia, which crippled their ability to continue their war against the Houthis, which eased the pressure on them. The goal should have been complete the mission, destroy the Houthis, reestablish the regime that is Western friendly, Saudi friendly, and then bring back to a status quo.
Yeah,
You can't.
destroy any Senate, like destroy
Yeah,
the,
and
and then
don't say
it,
you're a
and then
progressive domestically when you're literally sitting here advocating for genocide.
yeah,
No,
you're
I'm
saying
not. No,
destroy
I'm
the
saying
Where is
insurance, like
your you want the American government to destroy indigenous peoples, to
no.
restore Western friendly regimes. That's a no for me, dog. Like
But
what are
they're
you
indigenous too. You understand that? Do you understand that the makeup of a country like Yemen that has a
Yes, I do
Sunni
understand
Okay,
that.
so
I'm
then you
part of an
understand.
indigenous population in America. I understand there's more than one. Yes.
Fantastic. So you have the Sunnis, okay, who are by and large allied with
wait, but
the
hold on
different GCC.
before we move on
Sure.
to that. I'm just saying like this is where the contention comes. Like you just saying destroying the, and like I don't care what's next. I don't care the thing that's next. If we're talking about a group of people, I'm out. Like
Destroy
that's
the
the problem. Like
Nazis.
that's what we've been doing. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Yeah, same thing. We have
You wouldn't be
Nazis in
for
this.
destroying the
We
Nazis?
have
Like,
them in this country, and
no, 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 no. I'm
I
talking
do
about a
not agree
regime.
with wholesale just unaliving groups of people.
No,
So
we're not
RT,
going to
R, RT,
genocide them. No,
RTP, no,
we're
no, no.
not going to
RTP,
do
let me,
what and please stop saying that word. Please stop yelling that word.
sorry.
You could
Okay,
say
let
you
me,
know, but don't say the
Schmatzi, sorry,
word.
I apologize.
That's all right.
Let me rephrase that. We understand that individuals are limited with their reach, capability, scope, whatever, right? Individuals are individuals. I'm talking about organized violence, right? I'm not talking about an individual who identifies as a mustache man sycophant. I'm talking about if today there was a regime that promoted that ideology, that had the aspirations of G-side and all the other things that the Schnazis did between 33 and 45,
Yeah.
you're saying that you wouldn't be for destroying that regime?
Yeah,
Come
look,
on.
if we would have, yeah, if we would have gone back, if we could go back and do the 1930s over, maybe we would have taken a look at like our role in the rise of Schmittler. Maybe like you're talking about the reaction once things have happened, but how about the fact that he was largely like inspired by Henry Ford and American ideas and this anti, the JQ. If I could go back and I could reassess 1930s, I feel like you're stopping at the wrong place. You're stopping at during the war. I'm saying before the war. Like we're pushing our propaganda, pushing Henry Ford propaganda, and allowing that to promulgate throughout the United States as well. Like I would have stopped that. I
And
would
I
rather
and I
I would rather
agree
do
with you.
that. I'd rather use diplomacy.
I agree with you, and I'm with you. And if had the Allies not forced Germany into the Treaty of Versailles and had some magnanimity in their victory in World War One, maybe the rise of someone like the Mustache Man would have never happened. There's a lot of things that could have been done differently. I'm saying though,
Or maybe what actually happened is we were on board with the rise of the Mustache Man. We liked it until he started, like, he took it just a little too far for Americans. And then Americans are like, oh shit, we better go over and we'll help Rush with this. And as soon as the war's over, we're like, hey, good news. You guys, the same guys that were fighting, you're on our team now. Come help us in America. And now we're going to fight against communist Russia. Yeah, like we saw them as allies for a long time. We liked that ideology. That would be my concern.
I wouldn't
Look at
go
how
that
well
far.
we have treated the Germans post World War II, specifically that
Well,
group
I
of
just need to
people.
say something too. I want to distinguish between, like, you love to say regime. Like, yeah, let's say there's a difference between a regime, right? There you could say there's the regime in Venezuela right now. There's also just people living there who you are trying to group in. Like, it's the same in Russia. Like, is Putin's war against Ukraine, do I think, is there a regime in Russia? Sure, I think there's a regime in Russia. Do I think that you would now associate what you're saying, indigenous populations or groups of people need to be eradicated because of an authoritarian government has come into power? No, absolutely not.
See,
I
but I
don't
never
think so.
said that. See, you're putting words in my mouth.
No,
'Cause
but yes, you're
all I
saying a
ever said
regime and
was
you're
that the regime,
advocating for the Houthis
yes.
to be genocided.
No, I'm advocating for the current regime that's sitting in Sanaa, the capital, that, by the way, only controls maybe 50% of the country, all right? For that regime, that leadership, those T people pirates to be eradicated. Yes, I don't see why that is so controversial. Much like, by the way, I would have advocated for Mustache Man and his cabal of, Schnazis to be eradicated. This isn't something controversial. Doesn't mean that I want every single German to be unalived or every
Okay,
single
sure. So
Yemen
if
person
you're
to be
saying
unalived.
like in the example of Soleimani, like right, like is a controlled drone strike with
Exactly.
a few to no casualties, a better way of handling a situation, maybe. But then I would also say that like just as right, like a historical researcher, like has America has our like in C you can look in the CIA, since the 70s we've had a hand in every coup in South America that ever was. Is that our place? Has it been successful? I mean, in terms of just weakening a region, keeping it third world so we can rape it of its natural resources, sure, I guess that's a success for capitalism. But have we ever installed a new regime? Have we eliminated a regime, created a power vacuum, and then successfully filled it in the Middle East? I would argue no.
So bear with me. I want to give me 1 minute here and really absorb what I'm about to say.
And then he, then he mutes.
And then he just
I'm
takes a
absorbing it.
call.
I'm doing
No,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
right. I get a obviously I get a phone call right when I'm starting to say
Tell
something
Vladimir it
profound.
can
So
wait. Tell Vladimir you're on with
yeah,
me.
Vladimir,
Yeah.
Vladimir, please wait. All right. So all right, bear with me. First and foremost, let's establish that the United States isn't a saint, right? The United States is a flawed democracy, like any flawed democracy. You have self-interested individuals, leaders, and at the end of the day, it has done bad things around the world. Objectively true. In the same breath, I'd say that since the post-World War II era, the United States, we should all be thankful as a planet that by and large it's the United States at the helm, leading things. After World War II, the United States was the only country for 4 years that had nuclear weapons. Had this been 150 years prior, and this was either Holland or Great Britain or France, they would have basically told any country, we are taking what is yours. You don't like it? See you later. The United States, you know what they did? They did soft power. They did the Marshall Plan. They wrote checks to rebuild Europe. They promoted democracy around the world. Now, I'm not saying there's been mistakes made. There's been egregious acts made for sure, but the alternative, allowing for tyrannical regimes, allowing for communist regimes, theocracies, whatever, to set root and to control the world order. You can only imagine what the world would look like. So I know a lot of
Well,
people like to
it's
give me
if
20 more seconds. I give me
yeah, yeah.
20
No,
seconds.
Go
that
ahead.
no, but that
Why though?
no,
Why not?
no to what you're saying.
I don't get why you think that there's only two. You're like the opposite would have been worse. Sure, the opposite would have been worse, but there's like a million different scenarios that happen between this and the complete opposite. There were ways there's not a single conflict we can't look back and have said like we'll handle it in a better way. The problem I have with the United States is we seem to learn all the wrong lessons every time we go into a conflict, and the lesson that we seem to never remember is that like, hey, every time we do this we create more extremists. Every time we have a regime change operation, we create more extremists. And it might be cool for a little bit while they reset, but when they come back, it's worse. Like we've destabilized nearly an entire continent.
Okay, I have to say something. Like this, like this is American exceptionalism. It is a disease. Like it is not our job to police the world. And what you saw with the British Empire was, and when large fleets of ships were created, was a huge land grab, where regardless of the indigenous populations that were very much living and in possession of land, it was taken from them and they were subjugated, right? Like the land grabs are over. We're out of land to grab, right? Like territorial lines in the modern world have been drawn. That's why you're saying like that would have continued. There's no more land to grab through capitalism. We're now grabbing resources, right? And that is still going on. But to say in any way, for you, you are diseased. You have the Ronald Reagan disease. You believe that we are some sort of the arbiters or something, and we have any business ruling over indigenous populations. We do not, and you are not God, and we are not exceptional.
So first of all, I counter that we are exceptional, and not because we're
Would you
superior,
counter
but
that you're God?
No, absolutely
All
not.
right, just making sure.
Because if only because I'm an atheist and don't believe in God.
Gotcha.
But look, I'm not here to advocate for the rule of the white American man over the rest of the world. But I do think that out of all of the options out there with regards to political ideologies and systems, we have the least worst, if that makes sense for you. You know, you guys how advocate for the lesser of two evils when it comes to voting for someone like Biden. It's the same principle. I mean, again, the alternative, I know that it's sometimes hard to wrap our heads around, but the alternative is the type of regimes that we see in Russia with Putin. It's the CCP. It is Islamo-fascist regimes across the Middle East. It is a sickness way worse than a group of people thinking that they are enlightened and progressive and capitalistic.
It,
Because again, like
it comes off too simplistic to me to say, oh, we can't be better because Russia is worse. No, we're not
no, we
advocating that.
can be
Like,
better. We
yeah,
can
that's
be
what we're
better.
advocating for. We're
Sure,
that's
sure.
what we're saying, and it seems like you keep going back to every time there's like a criticism. It's like, well, the opposite is Russia. Yeah, like Russia's worse. I agree.
Hold on. No, no, we are both. We are both categorized. If you're a poli sci, that you should know, guy, that we are both oligarchies.
They don't even have
Our
beaches in
government is,
Florida.
we are all,
I mean,
but I
Russia.
mean, this is happening. And then to say, no, we have no business. Like you're basically saying, if somebody is going to do genocides, and it needs to happen, right? We need to decide when a regime needs to be replaced and who, and that we as America, we're the best choice for that, and we should get to play God.
We do the
No,
cleanest
Felice, that's
genocides. Yeah,
no,
that's
that's not my point at
Yes,
all.
you
Because
said
look,
we're
if
the
no,
least worst. We're
we're
the
the
least
least worst in
worst.
terms of the way that we govern and our
At
proportional
specifically
representation.
what?
But
At
at
specifically what are you saying? The least
specifically
worst at
giving
what?
the least worst of giving people freedoms, of giving people a voice, of respecting the idea of
Domestically.
sovereignty for
You mean
individuals.
domestically.
No, no, and internationally. Look, let me give you an example. Let me give you a case study of a country that instead of going against the grain and putting up obstacles and saying, no, we will not capitulate or we will
Okay,
not
you then
cooperate. Give
you
me a
don't
second.
have a
Let me
you
give you a
don't have
second.
a working no,
Why
you've
not?
literally talked 80% of the time you've been up here. We
True.
have literally been listening to you spew bullshit this
It's
entire
not
time.
though, bullshit.
You have a God complex. And it extends out to America. Thank you. We can all wrap it up here. You've said nothing, but you think you're God.
No,
Like,
man.
what
With
else?
respect,
Like,
no. With
no.
respect, no. I,
Listen, with
the,
respect to indigenous populations around the world that America has decimated, you have no idea what you're talking about.
and yet, if you look at a country
You
like
sound
the
like
U,
Henry Kissinger. That's who I would like. You literally, we have Henry Kissinger in the box to justify America's genocides.
I don't
welcome
view
back though,
anything.
Henry. Welcome back. It's good to have you back.
Thank you, thank you. Wasn't he German? I believe he was German. Listen, look, again, I'm not, again, I always preface it with the we have made mistakes and we have committed crimes,
Well,
right? We are not,
let me ask you this while we do
sure.
this. To get your opinion. Then, like you originally you came on, you don't like what Joe Biden did. Would you rather Joe Biden be heavy-handed, or would you rather that Joe Biden use diplomacy, try and advocate for a ceasefire, put pressure on Israel to, at the very least, like stop striking innocent people, like at the very least, which seems like that's reasonable. Or like, would you rather have that where we tried to get a ceasefire and tried to have a peaceful end, or would you rather have the heavy-handed, Zionist approach of
No,
just
he's
wipe them
Henry
off the map?
Kissinger.
That's what I'm trying to
No,
find
I'll
out.
answer that because I'll answer that. So first of all, I don't think Israel has any interest in targeting civilians. I think that's a nonsense
Well, then they're dogs. Then they're
assertion.
just really fucking bad at this.
No, they're dealing with a heavily dense urban setting where the enemy hides behind its own population. This is not an easy war to fight.
Brother, but
I think the
you know,
wavering support from the United States hasn't helped in ending this conflict.
yeah,
Because
but
you're
brother,
right. I
You
you
want
are
to
know that
delusional. They're in
there
an
is
open
deeply
air
seated
prison.
hatred for the people of Palestine. There is deep seated hatred within many in that in Israel. You know, and specifically those like Netanyahu. Like you go back and look at the history of Netanyahu. I don't believe that Netanyahu looks at the Palestinians as human. He looks at them as subhuman. Now maybe he looks at them like he looks at a dog rather than he looks at a rat, but he still looks at them as subhuman. He does not believe that they are equal, and that's where we have the problem. That's why he can justify the massive amounts of lives lost that were innocent civilians. And instead of saying, like, let's try a different approach, they're going to blame the Palestinians. They're going to blame Hamas. But it was still them. It was still them pulling the trigger or pushing the button.
Once again, Netanyahu doesn't rule by decree. He isn't an authoritarian. He's a prime minister, right? He's the head of the government, and as part of his cabinet, they make decisions. At the end of the day, the implementation is by the generals on the ground. Now, do you guys think for a second that if it was any one of the other top leading politicians right now in Israel, that the result would be any different? It wouldn't. I hate to break it to you guys. This is not Netanyahu's doing. He's not an autocrat. He doesn't say jump and someone says how high.
He has
He has
tried to
Isn't
disempower the judicial branch of his, of his government. He
no,
absolutely, listen,
that's
maybe he's
misinformation.
not a
I'll
pure
explain that if
authoritarian.
you want me
Listen,
to.
he could not be a pure authoritarian, but has he made moves towards autocracy? Absolutely, he has. But
No,
then
you're
if you
wrong,
wanted to get into
Felice.
a, that's like, again, that's like you're calling, that's like saying the CCP is communist. Of course they're not. There wouldn't be a state if they were communist. But is Xi a student of Marx? Did he lift a bunch of people out of poverty using socialism and communist theory and moves towards that? Yes.
He actually used American foreign direct investment to the tune of trillions of dollars to
No,
pull 400
anyways,
million people out
no.
of
He
poverty,
used
but that's a different
yeah, and used
conversation.
socialistic policy in order to lift people out of poverty and essentially create literacy in a country where a huge percentage of the population was illiterate.
I have no doubt, and I'm not. China is a modern miracle in terms of their ability to go from like a
If you, I just
third
have to
world
say this
developing
to you
country
because
into
just
a
as an
modern country.
indigenous person, this is really starting. If you are up here to try to explain why brown people cannot govern themselves, why
Oh,
Israel
Jesus
needs
Christ.
to be sitting in the middle of the Middle East and we need to use
Israel is a
violent
brown country,
tactics in
Felice.
order to subjugate indigenous populations, it's not going to work.
So wait, Felice, are you suggesting that Jews aren't indigenous to Israel? No, because
Well,
Israel's
no,
a brown
some are.
country. You know that.
Hold on, hold on,
Sure.
hold on. Some are, is my answer.
Okay, but Israel exists now, three
Some are,
generations
is
separated.
my answer. Some
Oh,
are.
fair, but point is that Israel today exists, three
Again, the
generations
answer is
separated.
some are.
I don't really understand what the point of this line of conversation is because Israel isn't going anywhere, right? There isn't going to be an uprooting of this country and sending people to other
No,
countries
but
around the
you're
world.
saying that Biden's using appeasement, right?
Yes,
You're taking the position that we need more violence.
I'm taking the position that had the Biden administration not been more interested in appealing to and appeasing a very loud minority here in the United States, that this conflict could have been finished already. That's my suggestion. I could provide receipts for it too,
Yeah, and we're
because
saying the opposite. He should have listened to that loud, what you call a loud minority, a lot earlier. This is where we have the disagreement. Like, our frustration with Biden is that Biden uh just backed Israel for too long, and your problem with Biden is that he didn't wholesale endorse Israel wiping the Palestinians off the map. Like, that's where we have the
no.
disagreement here. We want more of this version, you want less of it.
So you know what's ironic? Because in 2016, when the progressive movement was rallying behind things like single-payer healthcare and universal post-secondary education, the Democrats under Hillary Clinton at the time basically said, you know what, screw you progressives. We're going to cozy up to moderate Republicans to hope that they will give us the win. We're not going to even throw you a bone. Fast forward to
Who
8 years
cares? I
later.
don't care.
Well, you're right. I agree. Who cares?
Yeah, I
But
don't
fast
care.
forward to 8 years later, you have a loud, vocal minority that is angry with Israel and its defense against an enemy that is hell bent on destroying it. And now you're okay with the Biden administration throwing them a bone. Because
Yeah,
why didn't
because
Biden?
he did. Yeah, because he did what? Because he's now like talking a little softer. Yeah,
No,
I'm
because now
cool with that.
he's
Like,
trying to
yeah, I'm good
handcuff
with that.
Israel.
He still isn't capitulating to the far left. He's listening, and and part of the reason he's listening is because it wasn't working. We still have conflict. It doesn't appear that conflict is anywhere near being over. It wasn't working, and he said, like, maybe we'll reverse course. We've done this forever. It's not working. Maybe we'll reverse course and try something else. And hell, what if it just saved some people's lives? Would that be the worst thing?
Well, again, you guys have short term or short-sighted in this because this conflict could have been finished by now Had there not been the type
Brother,
of international pressure,
Brother,
hold on. Had there
brother,
not been the
Israel
type of
doesn't
international,
exist without us. We have all the
that's
leverage in the
nonsense.
world.
Come on, RTP, you know that's
We are
nonsense.
using a fraction of our leverage to get Israel to stop doing this. We are the United States of America. We are the most powerful country in the world. We could use our leverage to demand a peaceful two-state solution. There's a lot of things we could do, and maybe it's overstepping what we want to do, like what we think America should do. But there are many other options we could pursue outside of just being like, yeah, Netanyahu finished the job. Right? We have a lot of other options that we could try, and we have an
And what
extreme
kind of
amount of
message?
leverage.
What kind of message was that sent to all the allies around the world? Taiwan is
That we
watching.
shouldn't
Taiwan is looking.
genocide indigenous populations who
Nobody's
have
being
no
genocided. That
defenses.
word has been used to the point of nauseum at this point.
I'm
It
sorry
is.
if you don't like a word.
It's
I'm
because
going
it's
to continue
false.
to say it. It would send the
Police,
message
it's
that we
false.
are not going to genocide an indigenous population who can't escape.
Prove genocide. What court, what authority has determined that there is genocide occurring? Other than
So
just loud
it has to be
people.
a court now. So
Well,
in
no,
the
it
middle
has
of
to
a
be, has to
in the
be,
middle
has
of
to
in the
be.
middle of a conflict, you expect a court to decide whether or not it was genocide. I
They
remember
had an
during
opportunity.
the 30s, you would have been the guy being like, "Prove that Schmittler is doing a
He,
genocide."
he's
What
that
court has
guy.
that been
He's
in?
that guy
Okay,
in
You're
the
yeah,
like, "Oh, it
30s.
wasn't in
He's
any
that
court."
guy.
And you
He's
know
that
what, you
guy.
guys, you know
He's
what's
that guy.
insulting is
He's
that you
that
guys would
guy.
even
He's that
invoke
guy.
such a nonsense
Bro, you've invoked
comparison.
Schmittler like 5 times. Don't point
Well,
at me now when
no,
you
no,
Literally,
don't like the
no,
literally. You
comparison.
were
the fact,
screaming the word schmotzy over and over.
no, we were talking about something in the context, and now you're trying to gaslight me. Point
No,
is
I'm
that
saying that
to
it's
even
what's
try to
different.
compare,
What's
what's
different?
different? Are you kidding? There isn't a systematic unaliving. If Israel wanted to G-side all of the Palestinians, they could have done so 100 times by now. Can we agree with that at least? That Israel's
Yeah,
capacity,
but what if
right?
they? Yeah, but what if
So
they
then, what
wanted to
makes you
do it?
think that
But what if
G-side is
they wanted?
occurring?
But what if they wanted to do it under the cover of a legitimate military action? What if they're
Oh,
just
give me a
hiding
break.
behind what they call legitimate military action in order to perpetrate this?
Nonsense. Once again,
Oh
because
yeah,
every metric.
nonsense.
I'll tell you why. Every
In
metric.
your opinion, it's
It's
nonsense.
in
Again, we are
reality,
just
Elise.
you have
Elise, it's in
opinions
reality. No, it's in
and we have
reality
opinions.
because every metric with regards to what a G-side means isn't actually seen there. The Palestinian population has grown exponentially over the decades, hasn't decreased, right? Hasn't seen a decline where there was a mass unaliving of an entire segment of the population because of the systematic unaliving by Israel. It hasn't occurred. It never will occur. And why? Because Israel isn't genocidal. Israel has no interest in unaliving these people. In fact, if you actually do the analysis and you look into the
The
numbers,
original
you
plan prior to the war starting was to socially engineer the indigenous population out of existence over many, many years, but then that had to be sped up. Like, I agree with you.
what?
The original plan was social engineering.
What are you talking about now?
100%. I'm talking
Where?
about
Who?
social engineering.
But
I'm not.
what does that mean in the
Again, I'm not
context of
gonna.
this?
I'm talking
What?
about the plans. Well, let me just look. I'll look up a good paper on it and I'll give you a reference. But there were plans, right, to social engineer slowly over time through incentivizing different people to move to Israel. There were different ways to slowly over time socially engineer the indigenous population out of existence. Social engineering goes on in all countries, including in America.
Okay, so you're saying that Israel, because it has immigration policies that are favorable to ensure its Jewish majority, is social
Not
engineering?
just immigration, not just immigration policies, who could get business licenses, which school, many different things. Social engineering is not like simply about immigration.
Okay, well, look, again, I'm not going
But I
to
personally am
defend.
getting tired of this because we're just debating. Like you, I see your side. I see what you think. You want Israel to not be, in your words, handcuffed. You want us to give them whatever funds they want, and you want them to run roughshod over people who can't even run away if they wanted to at this point.
Well, whose fault is that, though? Every other conflict, Syria, you've seen millions of Syrians going to Europe and North America to escape
Yeah,
that
let me
war
answer
that's
that.
going
If
on
you
there.
back somebody into a corner that they can't escape and you are attacking them and you hurt them or you unalive them, it is your fault. That's whose fault it is. With the fact that they can't leave, like you can talk about semantics all you want, but guess what? If they couldn't leave, but nobody was attacking them, it's different than if you can't leave and someone's attacking them. So I'm going to blame the people attacking them, and I'm not going to look for a way for me to justify what the ICG or the ICJ has said. Like, yeah, this looks an awful lot like a genocide. There's your court, by the way. Like, this looks an awful lot like a genocide. But yeah,
They never said
it's
that. They
weird that
said
you're talking
the
about people being backed into a corner, and you're saying, well, whose fault is it that there's a corner? Well, why are they in the
no,
corner? Because they're being backed there
they're
by
in the
who?
corner because no, they're in the corner because their governing authority, right? H Group, who was the government of Gaza, decided to engage in the largest, most devastating single act of terror the world has ever seen. It's the equivalent of us losing 40,000 people on 9/11 and another 10,000 being kidnapped. You understand these things, right? It's not as if Israel woke up one day and said, you know what, let's spend billions of dollars, curtail our economy, ostracize much of the world in order to go to a war against Hamas.
Therefore, we are going to obliterate Gaza from the map. We are going to completely decimate it and unalive tens of thousands of innocent people. Yeah, like, I get it.
Who told you that?
You think
Who told
that
you
that's
tens of thousands
justified.
have been
The
unalive?
difference is we don't believe it's justified. You can condemn the attacks by Hamas, and you can also say that the response itself led to many unjustified unalivings. The problem I have with you is that you kind of want the brutality. You like the solution that is more warlike or commits more atrocities. You don't seem to spend any time criticizing Israel. Instead, it's always Hamas, it's us, it was Iran. You've blamed goddamn nearly everybody but Israel for this.
Yeah, and you're
Israel's
damn
the
right.
only
And
person that you're not putting any blame on, and they're the ones pushing the buttons. They're the ones ordering the strikes. They're the ones pulling the trigger. Like, they're the ones doing all of this, and it's the one group of people that you refuse to give any blame to, which is weird.
And it's not weird, and I'll tell you why. Because what does Israel represent? Israel represents
And this is
the
a circular thing. We're going to go in
Nothing.
circles
They
with him
represent
over and
nothing.
over and
They
over.
are a
represent
country.
the Western liberal democratic values.
No, they
of the world.
represent their
They do.
country.
They
They
absolutely
represent.
no.
They represent pluralism.
No.
They represent proportional representation.
In your opinion, can you
Not in
please
my
start
opinion,
saying
in reality.
your opinion
But it's
over
in
and over and
reality.
over?
It's in
Everything you've
reality.
said up here
They are
has
fighting.
been
They're on
in
the
this guy's opinion.
Felice, they're on the front line of an ideological conflict that has already reached our shores once on 9/11 and many times since. Okay? If you guys don't come to terms with that, you're going to have a rude awakening one day because this enemy
Someone
isn't
up here
going.
needs to come to terms with some things. That's with you.
Listen, I mean, again, you can disagree with me if you like. That's fine. You know what I mean? This is just a discussion. But I know this reality. I've seen it and I've lived it, and I understand what Israel is doing. And I think that
You've lived mass attacks in Palestine by Israel. You've lived this experience. You know what it's like to have your home decimated, to be living out in the streets with your children, to wonder, like, if your child goes for a walk, will they accidentally get hit with a drone strike? You've lived all this. That's what you're saying? Or are you just saying that you've lived other places and you're trying to use that as an excuse to justify the mass unaliving of tens of thousands of innocent people?
I'm saying, well, again, that's a information that is
Well, have
false,
you
but
lived?
whatever.
Have
I'm
you
not
lived
to
it?
do, but I'm saying that
Have
if
you lived it
Israel
though?
doesn't complete the mission, and
Have you
not
lived it
only
though?
can you not be a troll though? Come on.
No,
It's
I want to
because
know.
everything he's saying is an opinion, and then to justify the opinion, he
No,
has
but
to
you guys
go
are speaking in
like, "Oh,
sound bites.
anecdote time. I lived
Okay,
it."
look,
Like, that's
again,
what
I
happens.
need to express something to you guys because the destruction of Hamas isn't just a matter of liberating the Israelis from that threat. It's liberating the Palestinians too. I know you don't see that, but no reality can H group come out of this intact because all it will do is result in an invigorated enemy that perceives Israel as weak, which will result in more wars. By the way, take note what's happening in north of Israel. For 6 months, Hezbollah has been attacking Israel, and Israel has been relatively selective and patient with its responses. The minute
Yeah,
that Israel
I don't
goes
even know
into
what you're
Lebanon,
arguing. But what are you arguing at this point?
I'm
Because I've
arguing
already
at this
said
point that
this.
if we want to
Wait, but
save the Palestinians, we
yeah,
need
that's
to
what I'm
ensure that
saying.
Israel, if we want to save the
Yeah,
Palestinians, we need to
hold on,
ensure that
guy.
Israel has the means to
We
finish
don't
the
need to
job.
keep
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we don't need to keep
And
dancing
if we
around
want to
this. Like,
save the Palestinians, we've got to let Israel unalive all of them.
Right.
No,
We just
we've
have
got
a
to let
difference of
Israel destroy a troop,
hold
root
on,
them out,
guy,
and
hold
end
on,
this
hold
war.
on, guy, hold on.
Sure.
We're just dancing now. We're dancing around the same subject over and over and over. You think what Israel is doing is justified. I don't. I think there's a better way. You want to see Israel be allowed to wipe Palestine off the map. I don't. That's the difference. But
No,
you
I
are
don't
the
agree with
one,
that
like,
part.
but historically, the people that advocate for a mass genocide like this, historically, they are not remembered well. And I think that will be the same with those who are loudly being Zionists, loudly defending Israel right now. Like, those are tens of thousands of innocent people who did nothing. At the very worst, they voted for somebody. That's the worst they did. That's the worst they did. These are innocent people. These are men, women, and children who
What is your solution,
did not.
RTP?
Yeah, my solution is diplomacy. My solution is that the
Vis-a-vis who?
United States use its massive power to demand a ceasefire, and
Does
then
that include
demand
releasing
that
of
the
the
two
hostages?
groups, sit together. One thing I wouldn't have done is brought everybody but Palestine to the table and made the Abraham Accords, and then went around for years calling that like peace in the Middle East. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have pretended that the
Then you would have
Palestinians don't
failed because
exist.
you
I
don't
wouldn't have done
understand.
that.
You don't understand Hamas. You don't understand their ideology. You don't understand their
I don't
charter.
care. I
Because you know
honestly,
what? You know
I
what? I
do
agree
not
with you.
care.
Diplomacy. You know what? Diplomacy would have gone a long way. Because
Yeah,
if you
no,
imagine on
see this.
October 8th,
No, if you
imagine on
demonize the
October 8th,
opponent, no. If you demonize the opponent enough, then you can justify these unalivings, and that's
I'm not
what you're doing.
demonizing them.
Like, no,
I'm
that's
calling them
exactly
what they
what you're
are. You want
doing.
me to read
You're
you
And
some
you're
saying no.
RTP?
dehumanizing them
I'll read you the
100%.
Hamas aren't human. You're right. I agree with you. They're not
There we,
human. I'm going to
yeah.
read you
And then
their
by
charter if you
default,
like.
you now get to take anybody that's even loosely associated with them, and you get to dehumanize them too. And you're on
Loosely
here like
associated.
justifying the unaliving of tens of thousands of innocent people. I'm against that
It's not tens of
always.
thousands of innocent people, though. Who told you that? Where did you come up with that number? Oh, the
What's we're
Hamas-led Ministry of Health in Gaza